Well, welcome everybody to Bants in the Belfry, episode 5. Today I'm going to be having a chat with Mary MacGregor-Reid, who's an artist. Well, she's a lot of things, but I would say an artist above all things. I think I first met Mary sometime in the mid to late 90s. I remember watching one of her dancing performances at an event and was absolutely entranced and thought that she was the coolest person I'd ever seen. And then I think maybe sometime shortly after that, I saw a lot of photos of her at various sort of events, dress ups, and costumes. And I mean, that sort of basically confirmed for me that she was, in fact, the coolest person ever to have lived. And it wasn't until I would say sometime later that I actually realized what talented and respected and renowned artist that she was. Um, I've run into her on and off over the years since then at events and parties and that sort of thing, and I've always found her very charming and interesting to talk to. So I thought she'd be a great person to get onto the podcast. Um, and so, without perhaps too much further ado, let's 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 get into it. Hail Mary.
I'm really not sure I can live up to that intro.
We'll both do our best. How's that? Well, look, I mean, I've got a million questions and potential topics for us to talk about today, but I want to start with the one that I think is the most important to sort of get it out of the way first, and also because I think it's the one that everyone's going to be most interested to hear about and get your sort of take on. I believe it is the case that you have been on the world's largest water slide. What's that like?
I have. Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, that was quite something. I mean, there were moments when you get airborne, like
Mm,
significantly airborne.
where
There's
is
some
it?
good randoms.
Whereabouts in the world is it? I didn't actually get that information from your.
Oh, it was in New Zealand.
Really, we have
There,
we have the largest one.
it was a temporary fixture.
Ah,
Um, because there was a guy whose name I've forgotten, and he had done all this work around getting past depression. And one of the
yeah,
things he did was build the world's largest water slide. And it was this giant inflatable thing.
yeah.
And it was set up down a hill in West Auckland, and you had to get tickets, limited, very limited tickets to be able to ride this thing.
Uh,
And you know Richard Skulls, don't you,
yeah, I
Alan?
do. I do. I was actually
Yeah,
going to
we
ask you
went
about it at
with
some
that.
point.
Yeah.
Oh, so the two of you went. I know you guys
Oh,
are quite tight.
the four of us, me and Dan and Eleanor and Richard all went.
Oh, brilliant.
Um, it was amazing. Yeah, I did wear pretty much a full body UV protective suit.
Mm. Um. Oh well, it sounds amazing, and I'm just maybe just only a little disappointed that it was temporary, so I can't go there myself, but
Yeah, I
maybe
don't think they're
again.
doing it again,
Oh,
unfortunately. Yeah,
brutal, brutal.
yeah, no, because I would definitely go.
Um. But on to the other stuff, which is never going to manage to live up to that intro, um, the water slide that is. But so I basically left myself 2 days, as I was mentioning before, to kind of get up to speed with what you've been doing and the things that you've done. And I was going through your website, your blog, and creeping on your Facebook. Um,
Nice.
and I realized pretty quickly that I'm an idiot and that I should have given myself much longer than 2 days to do it. Uh, but I mean, above all, I suppose I think of you as an artist, and I should imagine that's how you think of yourself too.
Yeah.
So it seems like the logical sort of place to start. Like, how would if you were trying to describe the kind of art that you do and the kind of themes you explore to somebody who kind of wasn't familiar with your art, how do you think you do that?
I guess in a very sort of brief little sentence, it's exploring human interaction with the otherworldly,
Hmm.
uh, and how we experience states and places that are perhaps outside of the everyday.
Right.
Yeah, and draws a lot on esotericism, Western esotericism, and alchemy.
Yeah.
Use as kind of like a symbolic framework for those ideas. Yeah, and I've mainly been working in video and some photography because I find that that's a really good way to approach this content or these ideas without being what's the word I want? So cliched.
Like what would it look like if it were cliched? Like how would it what would be the cliched approach for that sort of stuff, do you think?
I guess for me, sometimes occult art becomes very focused on the symbolism of a particular sort of path of knowledge or something like that, like a particular order or a particular way of looking at things. And it cuts off access to your kind of everyday viewer. So it's very interesting to people who are already involved in that, but it's very confronting and almost inaccessible to your everyday art viewer or just the public who might want to interact with and understand what the work's about, but they can't because the really heavy symbology and things just puts a barrier in between them and the work. Right. So I try to use a really contemporary medium, so video, which doesn't have that sort of ancient texts, old world kind of vibe to it. So it takes it out of that context, and then I keep the symbolism quite open and non-confrontational, hopefully, for viewers. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I mean, I was going through your website, which we'll link and so on, and you've got a lot of your work up there. And I was looking at a lot of the images. I mean, I've seen quite a few of them before, but I was making an effort to sort of get more familiar with a lot of the stuff. And I watched quite a few of the videos. And I can, now that you say that, I can actually see that. Like, obviously, there's the interest in the occult and esotericism. But like you say, you're not just having a bunch of confusing symbols blasted at you or anything like that, right?
Yeah, and a lot of stuff is a bit like that. And so people see it and go, well, that's interesting. Don't understand it, and walk away. Whereas I want the work I'm making, because I'm quite deeply embedded in that world, I suppose, that kind of occult research. But I understand the fact that for a lot of people, it's just like, oh, I just don't know what's going on with this. But at the same time, most people have that fascination with the idea of other realms, other places, other existences, things that touch on our world. And so I want to give people access to that without sort of flooding them with arcane symbols and sigils. Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw you deliver a presentation at the occult exhibition that was on the City Art Gallery down here in Wellington.
Yeah, that was really fun.
That was really fun. I mean, it was really fun for me actually. And I suppose I saw, they had a lot of different things going on, but you did see all those different approaches.
Yeah,
there was that.
Particularly, I think I was going to say some of the perhaps the older work was a lot more heavily symbolic, and then some more contemporary work was allowing more access for the viewer. So, like, they had, but no, even actually, no, I take that back. Rosalind Norton and Alistair Crowley's work, I think, was still quite accessible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Aaron,
I remember them.
Curated that show, and I think he did an amazing job.
Well, there was that video that they played. I mean, you'd probably remember what it was. I think it was from maybe the 60s or 70s, and that was that kind of like there was a flood of kind of occult symbology in that.
That was the Kenneth Anger video, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. It was. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was.
I mean, I enjoyed, but it was bewildering to me. I mean, I enjoy being bewildered. So, I mean, I certainly enjoyed it on that level.
Yes.
And I know that you have, you kind of have a connection like an ancestral connection to Aleister Crowley's sort of occult world and practice, don't you? Your grandfather, is that
My great
great
grandfather
grandfather?
and my grandfather
Mm,
are very interesting characters.
yeah.
Yeah. My great grandfather was well, my whole family basically are Scottish, and he was a very fiery Scotsman
Hmm.
who had all sorts of crazy adventures, and he ended up in the Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Nothing
Yeah.
to do with the Greek far right party. So
Oh.
this was in late Victorian London,
Hmm.
and so he met a lot of the people around that era who were involved in esoteric practice, and one of them was Aleister Crowley.
And
And
they exchanged letters and so on, didn't they?
yeah, my he knew my great grandfather knew Crowley, and then my grandfather exchanged quite a few letters with him. And I'm not sure, I don't think they ever met, but there's quite a lot of correspondence between them in the Warburg Institute in London.
Oh,
And
right.
I got a sort of an academic referral to go there in 2016, I think it was, 2017. And so I went and saw their archives of material, which was just fascinating because they had, as well as my great grandfather's work, they had all this original documents that Aleister Crowley had created. And I was allowed to see them, but obviously I wasn't allowed to share them or photograph them or anything like that. But like I saw his original writing of Liber Oz, which is kind of like a creed
Hmm.
for the Ordo Templi Orientis, and a whole bunch of his early writing, and it was amazing just actually seeing it.
And what's the? I mean, a bit of a sidebar, I suppose. But what's the reason that they don't let you photograph it? I mean, without a flash, would like it wouldn't damage it, surely, or?
No, but they don't want it out in the public domain, and I'm pretty sure it's because there's a bit of a sort of copyright.
Oh, right. Oh, still.
Sort of not sure who really owns it, and yeah, it's not been published,
Right.
so I wouldn't have the right to actually put it out in the world. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that
But
makes
when you
sense.
go into the Warburg, if you're looking at some of these documents, they actually seat you at a little desk, and
Hmm.
they have a librarian watching you from one side and a librarian watching you from behind, so that you can't, take anything, photograph
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
Do you know if there've been any like scandalous incidents that led to them putting in that sort of
No, I,
oversight?
I don't know, but it's
No.
pretty amazing.
Yeah. I'd be curious.
It was
Uh,
terrifying to be watched by librarians like that. They're scary.
um, well, actually, since you sort of mention it, what's your kind of educational and academic background? Because I have a feeling, and correct me, I have a feeling that you did a master's, and I think you've done some sort of what do they call it? Like fellowships type things where you've traveled to places and
Oh,
there's
I know
sort of
what you mean. In the early 90s, before we met,
mm,
just before we met, I think,
yeah.
I did a Bachelor of Fine Arts at Elam here in Auckland.
Hmm.
And then I was going to do a master's, and I got a job as a graphic designer. And I felt at that time, it's so hard to get these early jobs. I'm going to take this and do that. And so that went on to a design career.
It's a very
And then,
competitive field too, right?
it's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Mm,
Yeah, it's very competitive. I think it's probably even worse now.
mm,
So I did that for many years while doing all my goth and all that shit. And then I decided when I turned 40 that I wanted to go back and do this MFA, this Master of Fine Arts degree that I'd been thinking about so many years ago.
right.
And I did. I went back and did that, and that kind of set me on my path to close. I had a design business. I closed my business, just
Hmm.
walked away from it, and decided to be an artist full time.
I was going to ask you about that because I think, I mean, it's been a few years since we really sat down and had a conversation. And I think one of the things I remember discussing with you the last time that we talked was that you were in the process of trying to sell that business, I think.
Yeah,
And you said it
yeah,
was difficult because of like, how personal the relationships were and with the clients and so on. So
We
did
had
you?
a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so did you just end up like basically shuttering it rather than selling it?
Yeah.
Or?
I was just like, oh, fuck this. I've had
Yeah.
enough. I had
Yeah.
the business for 12 years. Like,
Mm,
it was really great for 10 years.
mm,
And then the last couple of years, I was just so over it.
yeah.
And I just wanted out. And because of my relationship with the clients, even though it was an independent business and everything, it
Mm,
was just so hard to sell because potential, other design companies were worried that if they absorbed my company in,
yeah.
the clients would leave
Yeah.
because I
And of
was
course
there.
that's a big part of the value, right? Just those
Yeah,
clients. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just ended up going, oh no,
So
that's it,
almost
enough.
like you're a victim of your own success in personal relationships at that point. That you've established such strong bonds with the clients. They're like, we don't want anyone else. We can't have her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really kind of was like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Oh well. So you so you gave that up. You did your masters. You at least had one or two fellowships or something, didn't you? Where you were essentially like you're funded to go and create
Oh
art
yeah,
or study or.
I went to be an artist in residence in Finland
Hmm.
just for a month,
Yeah.
and that was just fantastic. I met so many amazing people, and it was in the middle of winter. It was in January, and everything was iced over.
Mm.
It was so beautiful. I never felt hot, which was also amazing.
I'm a fan of not feeling hot.
Oh, and you know what Auckland's like.
Yeah, I
It's
do. I
just
lived there for a couple of years. It was
so
quite rough at times.
so, so I was over there for all of January
Hmm.
um, in the ice and the cold, and had an amazing time. Made some great art, met some great people. I made a couple of really good friends, who I'm still in contact with. And that was the same time that I actually went to the Warburg Institute. So I stopped in London on my way to Finland,
Hmm.
and I saw
Oh,
Jordan Ray, hung out
right.
with her in
Yeah.
London, caught up with her,
Oh,
and I
that's
went to
cool.
my favourite band, Fields the Nephilim.
Oh,
So
you've already hit on two things that I was going to ask you about, but we'll get
yeah,
there. Um. Oh, so you did that, and then well, actually, I tell you what, I didn't realize. I didn't realize that you were actually making a living as a full-time artist. I I
look, let's be fair. I'm
Yeah.
not.
Right.
I'm not. I am contracting.
Yeah.
So basically, and this is the way to do it. I think for an artist is
Hmm.
to have another job that you don't have to do full time
Yeah.
uh, to generate income. So
Mm.
I am contracting as a designer,
Yeah.
and I was going around all different companies. Sorry, I've got an agent who kind of sends me out. It's almost like being design Batman.
Hmm.
So there's an emergency, the design light goes on, and you're sent out to fix the emergency.
Right. Right. Right.
But I ended up, I've got a really good relationship with M&C Saatchi up here. So I basically work there exclusively now. But I have a lot of time off
Yeah.
to do that.
And do you well, this is actually something else I was going to bring up. Like, do you find that so if you're a graphic designer, you're doing a job that's quite demanding of your creativity in order to live, in order to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
Um and I guess I got two questions. One is how do you feel that kind of sort of drains you at all creatively in a way that it affects the art you do for art's sake, let's say? And I wish I could remember what the second question was because it was in my brain 3 seconds ago, and maybe it'll come back.
I'll answer the first question. Can you
Yeah.
think about the second
Oh
question?
well.
So, I think that a lot of people who work in the creative industry get super, super drained
Hmm.
and find it difficult to make their own creative work because you're just coming up with new ideas all the time, creating new things, and you basically get sucked dry, which is why I closed my business.
But you
But
said you only felt like that in the last 2 years. of your business. Is that right? Or was that like a running thing?
It was a running thing, but it wasn't overwhelming. And also, I wasn't creating a lot of art at the time, or trying to actually set up a proper art practice. So art and things like that was a bit more sporadic. But then when I decided, okay, I really want to do this, I couldn't be a full-time designer at the same time because it was just too much. But the working part-time as a designer is actually really great because it gives me the chance to go and do something different and talk to lots of other interesting people. And because, the people I work with are fantastic. They're so cool. But then I can come back and work on my own art without feeling like I've been creatively drained.
Well, and it's one of those things with creativity too, I think. I remember someone talking about the idea that, you have your creative phase, but you also have a phase where you're filling yourself up. And so maybe some of the work that you would do as a graphic designer would actually contribute to your creativity, but also like just having experiences in the world, interacting with people, having conversations, getting ideas like that. That's part of like filling up the kind of creative reservoir, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you're, say, a musician and you're writing a lot of lyrics or so on, it's often useful to go and read some books before you embark on the exercise, or just do some reading in general about things that interest you, because it generates ideas. I found the question that I was going to ask.
Yeah, go on.
Which was, how would you describe the similarities and differences between the creative process in the graphic design world and the creative process for you and your artistic process, and what kind of separates them in your view?
Well, I was actually just thinking about this the other day. I was talking to a friend of mine who's also an artist in Christchurch. She's called Jen Boromast, who looks really amazing. And we were talking about this because she's followed a very similar path to me, in that she had a career as a graphic designer and then later in life went back, did a master's, and is now an artist.
Right.
And we were talking about this issue with graphic design and how you're constantly needing to come up with new ideas. So working as a designer, it's kind of like fresh, new idea. Nothing can be the same. You have to have a new thing every time. Make it pop, make it amazing, all that stuff that clients say.
Right.
So you're constantly thinking, I can't do the same thing again. I can't go back to an old idea. I can't, reuse this or revisit that.
Right.
But the artist is completely different because it's actually very beneficial to go back and revisit work that you've created in the past and make it again, or make something that grows out of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it doesn't have to be new all the time.
No.
And there's this artist, from the late 1800s, Gustave Moreau, who's a painter who I love and I've loved since I was a teenager. And he painted Salome and John the Baptist multiple times. He came back to that same subject and painted it over and over differently every time. And it's like, you don't think, oh, I'm sick of seeing that painting, or I'm sick of the subject. And because,
And there's quite a few artists who have done that too, right? There was, I mean, you'd know the name, but there's that guy who painted the Pope, like all those different versions of him. Was it?
Oh, yeah, Francis Bacon.
Yeah, Bacon. I always confuse Bacon and Freud. Like painter Freud, Like, anyway.
Freud's son almost paints in a slightly similar way, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, it could be. And who was the other one? Oh, well, and also like the number of artists who do self-portraits at different phases of their life. Like they keep coming back to self. I mean, there are even some who just continually paint self-portraits, but don't exhaust. Like it is creative and different each time, but also I suppose it's maybe a sort of self-examination thing, and like what are these new things I keep finding in myself. Well, actually, it's interesting what you said about looking back, because one thing that because I've read some other interviews with you and things that you've written, And one of the things I saw that you said is that you're interested in creating a map of all the things that interest you and
Mm.
trying to work out how to connect them.
Yeah.
And which I imagine must involve a certain amount of looking back and re-examining, and
Oh yeah, over and over. Yeah.
yeah. And how is that? I'm kind of like, when I read you say that, it's like, do you have, is there a room in your house with a giant board on it with stuff stuck to it with like red bits of string connecting them?
There
Really?
was.
There
Yeah,
was.
there was. Yeah. I do that sometimes and then I take a photo of it so I can take it
Right.
down and put some space. Yeah.
Uh,
But I absolutely 100% do that.
yeah.
Or I get a big piece of paper and kind of mind map it, like put all the things that I'm interested in and then
Mm.
connect them all up and kind of try to find intersections.
Hmm.
Because I think the intersection between things is where it gets really interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
no, go on.
what you were saying about, having that downtime, as a musician, as, writing lyrics and music and as an artist is, 100% true. I spend a lot of time reading and researching because that's as important
Mm.
as the making.
Yeah. I mean, and it's generating that much more material that you can start to connect and
Yeah, you
and
can't
see
make
the
it in a
connections
void.
between. No.
You can't just pull it out of the void.
Well, I think there was maybe I already knew this before going to university, but as you'll know, I guess from doing a fine arts degree, one of the things they tend to teach you at university is basically how to generate creative ideas, even if you don't feel particularly inspired. That there are actually, like, I mean, I think growing up, and I remember feeling the same way about music. It just seemed like fucking magic. Like, this person is just doing a magic thing that, how can it possibly be done? Um, and I think, maybe, sure, maybe not everyone is equally capable of having equally good sort of creative ideas or production, but I do believe that sort of, some solid level of creativity is probably achievable by just about everyone. And
I would agree with that.
yeah, and learning just some of those techniques, like, and I've just heard you mention a couple of them, um, is a great place to start.
Mm.
Sort of mind maps and so on. Uh,
And I think also getting momentum, not stopping,
mm,
because one thing I noticed with the masters is that when I was coming to finish the masters, I made sure that I had a project I wanted to continue with because I'd seen people do their final show and everything. It's all finished. Take a big breath and then just stop.
yeah,
And then you go, well,
guilty.
how do I start again?
Yeah, I'm in exactly that position now.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know what that's like. Yeah.
Well, I just, I mean, obviously this isn't about me, but
Oh no,
I
no, no,
I
no.
did have the experience of, doing I was so motivated and so diligent for about the first 2.5 years of my degree, and then I was just over it, and I really had to grind out the kind of final project in the ending, and you know, it and then I just felt quite burned out afterwards. It's like there are things that I learned and things that I want to do that I want to restart, but I thought I'd be ready to do it now. It's been sort of a year and a bit, and I don't know. I think maybe I forced myself to do too much. Like you were talking about the burnout at your end of thing. Like, maybe if you'd done another year or two, um, you might have had more trouble. Uh,
I think so. Yeah, I was just about there, I think.
mm,
Yeah. But then doing the masters actually reinvigorated me because it was so different from what I was doing as a designer.
right.
So it was a very different kind of creativity. So it was very liberating.
Mm.
But if I kept going with the design, I think, oh God, I would have just, yeah. Whereas I enjoy it again now. Now that I've had that break, I enjoy it again.
And what are you currently sort of interested in reading about, thinking about your next thing or your next refinement of a previous thing, or whatever it might be?
Okay, so there's this really interesting selection of women artists from the beginning of 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
There's an artist called Ethel Colquhoun who was also, all of these artists have an esoteric kind of bent to them.
Mm-hmm.
There's an artist called Ethel Colquhoun who actually knew my grandfather, and she was part of the Druid order. Oh, that's the other thing I didn't tell you about my great-grandfather and my grandfather. Yeah, my great-grandfather reinvigorated the Druid order in the UK. So that gives you a
respect.
I'll tell you more about that later. It's crazy. So she was in the Druid order with my grandfather, and she was an artist and a writer, a poet, and involved in that kind of occult scene. And she sort of started out her art career in the British surrealist movement, and then her work became more and more kind of abstract and more esoterically influenced.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really, really interested in her at the moment. And there was 3 of us artists, myself, Hayley Thayers, and Kate Rampling, who did a show last year that was all photography based and influenced by her and her work. Actually, it's coming to Wellington in May.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'll see you then.
Please let me know. I've actually I signed up for your mailing list.
Oh, there you go. You'll get all the info.
Oh, good stuff. You never know with mailing lists, like, you know, is it an active mailing list, or am I just sending an email out into the void? But
just into the void. No, it's active for when there's something to see.
Right.
Well, it's not just spam.
No.
Yeah.
Well, good.
But yes, we worked with her as kind of an influence, and that was amazing. So I'm still very, very interested in exploring her further.
That's the thing. Sorry, that's the thing you're talking about, of like the intersections too, right? Like the intersection of surrealism and esotericism.
Yeah. There's a very interesting book, actually. Hold on, I'll just grab it because it's just on my shelf.
Sure, I can link it afterwards if you like.
All right, I had to look through my vast quantity of art books. This book, just see if it's coming up on the screen.
Yeah, I see it.
Is about the intersection of surrealism and the occult. And it's very, very interesting. And it talks about, hold on, I can't see if I'm in frame.
And it's Nadia Future?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's how you pronounce it. But yeah, I'll link that.
And it's quite as you can see by its thickness, it's quite readable if people are interested. But it goes into quite a bit of detail about artists from that era. Oh, look, here's that one I was talking about. This is, well, it's black and white, but this is the Gustave Moreau, one of his Salome and John the Baptist paintings.
Oh, right.
Before, yeah. So people are interested in reading about that era. It is absolutely fascinating. There were several other female artists around the time. A woman called Hilma af Klint, who was Swedish, and she she connected with some otherworldly beings, and they told her about all these paintings to create, and she didn't want them to be seen until after she was dead, like a certain amount of years after she was dead. And so they're only really just coming to light now. And it's incredible work because she was creating abstract art for anyone else.
I love that shit where it's like something's been locked away for like 50 years and, 2020, oh yeah, this person who, created this and however many years ago, suddenly new material.
And it's these huge, incredible paintings that she had intended to be in a temple situation. And, they've all got these lovely titles and incredible colours. And so she's another artist from that era. And then one I'm just reading about at the moment is a woman called Emma Kuntz, who I think might be my favourite, actually. She was another kind of esoterically inspired artist, and she created all of her drawings using a pendulum, and they're all these big geometric line work things, like almost like mandalas.
Right.
And yeah, she wasn't really known about in her time either. And she's just kind of coming to light as being this amazing woman artist from the time. And she sort of really just stayed away from society, but she acted as a healer in her local community. Just these amazing women artists who've never been seen. So that's my fascination. As you can see, I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. It's really, in fact, you brought up something there that I had down here to ask you about as well, because I did look through a lot of your sort of recent work. I mean, I didn't have time to give it as much attention as I wish I did, or that it deserved. But I was just kind of looking at it and thinking, well, what are some things I noticed about this that seem to be reoccurring, or like that kind of tend to thread things together a bit? And one of the things I noticed is that there's a lot of like really strong color statements. I mean, obviously, like the kind of triptych type thing that you did recently with Albedo and the others, but also like further back than that, and also like a lot of geometric patterns. I was seeing a lot of your work as well. And what do you think sort of behind that, or how does, do you think that's true?
No, 100% true. So even though I wear black all the time, being a goth,
I was actually going to ask you about your relationship to color. So,
I know.
So you can answer that now if you like.
I'm obsessed with colors. I don't really understand the relationship between, being a goth all these years. Although, look, my hair's orange now. And just being obsessed with color. What's that?
I said accent color. Accent colors are acceptable.
That's right. Acceptable accent color as well, I think.
That's right. I will find that.
But I don't know if you remember, but you were talking about like, how you'd seen me doing like a dance performance and stuff.
Yes, that's
but
right.
All of my dance costumes were single color. Like I'd find a color and make my costume out of that color.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that was definitely something that I noticed. Like, so obviously, like, it's not like you're just into black or just into red or whatever color. Like you definitely enjoy color, but it's often quite, strong statements of color, not like lots of different colors mixed together so much.
No, I don't like to mix them up. I feel like it's almost rude to mix them together. I don't really know why that is, but it seems. I can't remember who it was, but I read someone, I think it was another artist, saying that they thought mixing colors was dangerous. And I think maybe I feel a bit that way too. Like you've got to have the color on its own. You shouldn't put other colors with it. That's going to ruin it.
As someone who, as a child, my food all had to be separate before I would eat it. I relate to that feeling. You can't mix your potatoes and your peas. What kind of a barbarian are you?
Oh no, the peas are green. They go by themselves. The carrots are green, orange. They go by themselves. We put them together. What's that all about?
So that,
I haven't worked out why I'm obsessed with color on its own, but it could have a bit of an occult connotation, I think, in that colors are very specifically attributed to certain ideas. Around that, not entirely sure. It just fills me with happiness to have those really strong.
Well, I wonder. That sort of makes me wonder if, like, that the danger of mixing colors is actually the danger of mixing ideas that perhaps don't belong together.
Yeah, or perhaps mixing very strong, potent powers or something like that. Shouldn't put them together.
Yeah.
But you don't know what the outcome's going to be. I don't know. I'm just sort of riffing on the idea. I'm not. I still haven't worked that out. I might never work it out.
There's a red piece of string that still needs to connect a few things on your board.
Yeah, I need to take over the whole living room with bits of paper, post-it notes.
Oh look, I'm sure Dan would be cool with it.
Driving me crazy.
Um, oh, and so what about the geometry? Where do you think that sort of comes from?
Oh, okay. That I think is to do with, I think that's definitely got an esoteric thing to it. I've always really loved geometry. I think it's because geometry is a visual representation of mathematical ideas.
Yes.
I think
Yeah,
it's
right.
something to do with that. I think, like, I've always been fascinated by, the idea of the platonic solids and
Yes.
their place in the universe, and how the dodecahedron is the perfect celestial shape, which you may have noticed I've used quite a lot in my art.
I did, but I probably didn't. I may not have
Really,
clocked that it was a
you
dodecahedron,
see,
but
this is the thing. Your
yeah,
subconscious will pick it
yeah,
up,
yeah.
hopefully. Yeah. Um, yeah, so the geometric thing is definitely to do with that idea of representing un, unexplainable concepts in a visual form.
Hmm. And I
Mm.
mean, it's true what you say too about them being the expression of mathematical ideas and of quite perfect, very rigidly defined mathematical ideas given a physical form
Yeah.
that help us to understand the world, but don't really naturally occur in the world. You don't really get a perfect circle in the world.
No.
You get close, like our eyes and so on, but you never really get perfect circles or perfect spheres. But they can be mathematically defined quite elegantly, and they help us to understand things like the wheel uh, and rolling pins, and
Well, they do. They help us to understand the universe, don't they? They help us
mm,
to understand the microcosm and the macrocosm, how things are built, how things move around each other,
mm,
um, how things intersect, and yeah, how things are made, I think, but in a way that's at one time complex and simple, and that you can express visually without having to use any sort of mathematical equations. I don't know, am I waffling?
no, no,
Probably.
no. I mean, yeah, you're seeing the maths without looking at formulas, I suppose.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
seeing
So,
something, a
yeah, it's better for
representation.
someone like me to look at something like that. It's easier for me to understand.
Well, I mean, you'd be like a highly visual person, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably.
I'm only sort of moderately visual, but it does actually what I find. You know how actually here's something interesting. Like, what is your preferred way to learn information or to learn how to do something? Like, how would you like to receive the information? If you want to go
Wow,
out and figure out how to make a code, hang
that's
a
really interesting because you'd think I was visual, right?
hmm,
Kinetic.
kinetic. Yeah,
Mm.
that is interesting. But see, a lot of your stuff involves physical performance in a space too, right? So that,
Makes sense.
and also there's a lot of, I mean, although there's static images, there's quite a lot of video as well.
And I
Um,
prefer the video.
right.
To be honest, like I want to make more video because I want the movement in it. So
And
yeah,
well, I mean, what I found looking at some of your videos as well, like I watched a few of them right through, but I don't know who you got to do the music or if you created it yourself. But it's
both,
yeah,
both.
so watching some of those, even if where there's only maybe quite small amounts of movement in the piece, but there's also like a soundtrack and something about the time and the small amounts of movement in space. Like, and I've often found this when going to the city art gallery and stuff when they show videos that you
Mm.
can kind of immerse yourself in it and have an experience that isn't something you can actually get from a static image or just
Yeah,
even contemplating a
yeah.
static image. Um, because of the way that it changes over time, I suppose. Even if
It's
it
immersive, I think.
is it sorry?
It's much more immersive, I
Yes.
think.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah. What's your learning style? Are you auditory?
Yeah, my learning style is I like to have static images and text,
Yeah.
but both. Like I actually not to get on a rant here, but it annoys me just on a personal level how much learning now takes place purely in video on YouTube. So like younger
Oh, I can't.
people particularly, if they want to learn how to, even do something on a computer or whatever, they're going to be like, oh, I'll just go to YouTube and there'll be a video and someone will walk me through it. And it's like I hate learning things that way. I
Yeah, so
like
do I.
yeah, I like to have like illustrations so I can visualize it, and then text so I can maybe sort of dig in as well and just have them kind of broken up, you know. That's kind of optimal for me, I think. Which I think it makes sense to me in terms of the way I understand myself, as being someone who's quite sort of cuspy, sort of between visual and linguistic. That kind of doesn't have a super strong preference for either. And oral, like I find myself in the middle of a lot of these kind of intersections, and so it
Mm.
helps me to have multiple different modalities, I suppose. That's just something I was
Yeah.
thinking when you were talking. It's
When you
curious.
were, I was going to say, when you were at doing when you were at uni, when you were
Yeah,
taking notes, did you handwrite your notes? Or
let me
type?
think. Um, when the first, well, yeah, my academic background's a bit checkered, but the first few times I went to university and didn't complete my degree, I did take handwritten notes.
Mm.
When this most recent time I took type notes, like I'd have my laptop there and type while the person was speaking, and I would also record the audio of all the lectures.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'd use both. But I wouldn't take. Oh, actually, yeah, and if there were any slides or anything, I would also download those and incorporate them. So I suppose, yeah, that's reasonably consistent, I would say. So I have the kinetic thing of getting the information down, which definitely helps with recall. But also I'd have the audio as a reference I could go back to if I knew some guy said something sometime and I just need to fucking find it, which is a nightmare when you've got like several hours of audio to scrub through. Um, and yeah, and I'd have the slides in case I needed to. Sometimes I can't visualize things well enough because I'm not enough of a visual person to.
Yeah.
I need something in front of me that I can look at to sort of aid. Whereas I imagine that you might be like my partner, that you can sort of close your eyes and imagine something, and it's quite high resolution and has
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And see, like I'm really impressed. I mean, I wish I could do that. I'm really impressed by people who can. But suddenly, like when I understood that some people think like that, so many things in my life made sense. And basically, everyone who's good at interior decoration suddenly made sense to me. Because it's like, how do you do it? Because I'm just like, I've got this vague, fuzzy picture, and I kind of stick some stuff up and then kind of move it around, and it take ages to have it look right because the visual image isn't strong enough. Whereas, like people like you, it's just like, oh yeah, it doesn't look like the picture in my head. Nope. Okay, it goes there. And that I suppose Mozart was like that with music. He
He could
could,
basically hear it
yeah, and he
and
could,
thought of everything.
yeah. And if you look at his manuscripts, there's almost no corrections. He was just like, oh yeah, that's the tune. This is all the instruments. Write it down.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, because I guess I do basically do that if I'm making an object or a costume or something. I kind of go, okay, this is what I want, and I just make it. And
Mind
where it
blown.
really comes from, like I remember when I discovered something really interesting because I've always been able to like visualize something in three dimensions and like move it around in my head. Like I can
Ah,
visualize the shape and basically it's like a 3D thing and I can kind of move it around in my head and look at it. And
yeah.
I remember talking to my mum and was like, oh, this was years ago. And I was like, oh, I'm thinking about making this thing and blah, blah, blah. And she told me she couldn't do that. And my mind was blown. So I
Yeah.
just didn't know that
And
people didn't do that.
well, and my mind was also blown a few years ago when I found out that some people have aphantasia, where when they think about things, even other people or anything, they can't create any kind of mental image. It's like,
Really?
yeah, it's like, how is that possible? But and then I actually found out. Well, it was funny. Like, I know this guy Richard. You might know him too, actually. It's like Richard Varga on Facebook. But anyway, uh,
Bit of insight.
he actually discovered he had aphantasia from that article that was like doing the rounds, because he just thought everyone was like exaggerating or making it up when they said they could see things in their head. You know, uh, he can't at all.
It's
That's
like,
like,
do you remember there was something doing the rounds about how some people do and some people don't have an internal monologue?
yes, yeah, and it's like,
That in mind.
and the percentage of people who don't have one is not that low from memory. I mean, I don't want to say figures because someone will just Google it and I'll be wrong.
Yeah,
But
what are you
from
sort of
memory, it was like something like 15-20%. It was like much higher than you would think of people who had no internal monologue. It's like, what is that even like? I mean, it really, it kind of opens your eyes to how different people's experiences of the world can be, I think. Because you think more or less everyone gets the same version of shit as you do. Like,
yeah,
maybe they're a little better with language, maybe, but you don't really think it necessarily differs all that much, that you have the
yeah.
shared objective reality. But um,
But
more than more than I guess my intuition would have me imagine.
it's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy. It's
My
fucking
mum,
nuts.
my mum told me she dreams in black and white, and I was like, how does that even work? You don't see in black and white.
Yeah. Um, I think. Well, yeah. I think I dream with color, but it's rare that the color is like super saturated or vivid. Mostly, it's quite sort of muted tones, which I suppose makes
Mhm.
sense in terms of how I just visualize generally. That I visualize, but it's not like it is for you.
Yeah, because I have very bright color
Mm,
in my dreams, which makes sense with how it comes into my real world experience, I
yeah.
suppose.
It's
Yeah,
like,
I
oh,
was
that's
thinking,
why that's why graphic design is so hard for me and easy for all these other people because they have a fucking cheat stick in their brain.
yeah, that's right. Whereas I don't really have any musical ability. I wouldn't know. I can't play any instrument or anything.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say I don't have exceptional musical ability. I have the only thing that, like, I guess I'm just one of those people that I'm kind of average or maybe a little above average at a bunch of things, but I am not spectacularly good at anything. And probably the thing that I'm best at is writing, especially kind of, you know, as it leans towards poetry and
Oh,
stuff. And even then it's like uh I'm good enough to sort of understand how good I'm not, if you know what I mean. You know?
that means that you're probably quite good because it's
Um
always
well
people who
it'd be the
have
thing
no
I'm
idea
best
and
at.
go, I'm great.
Yeah. No, it's the thing that I'm the best at. But there is still like, let's say, two or three tiers above where I've managed to get with it.
Oh God, but isn't that the same for all of us? You just
Um, yeah, well,
yeah.
it's the nature of people who do creative things and who are actually good at them, perhaps, that they compare themselves to just these mythic figures who are just levels above and constantly feel inadequate.
And
But at least I
you
think
have
that
to,
keeps you heading in the right direction, right?
I think so. And you sort of do look at these mythic figures and think, well, are they feeling the same way? And looking at someone that they see as above them and going,
Yeah.
oh, I'm never going to do that good.
Well, they didn't have the fucking internet distracting them all the time, did they?
The internet is a gift and a fucking curse.
Yeah, it is. It is. I suppose I mean, a lot of technologies like that, right?
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of the internet, I did have a question for you. What is your obsession with The Rock? Like, I like it. I enjoy all the memes and everything, but I don't understand it.
I don't
What
know. I don't know where it came from.
did you
Like,
follow
I
wrestling?
don't, no,
Oh,
no,
just him particularly.
no, I don't know where it came from. I just, one day, I just found The Rock hilarious and started making memes about him and
Yeah,
imagining him in my life.
yeah.
And then I realized that it had become love.
Yes,
And I
as
really
happens.
genuinely liked him.
Well, you say love from this remove, it looks like just pathological obsession. But
No, I
is
don't.
there a difference?
It's more that it's more. I think it's more making hilarious photoshops about him and making other people like yourself laugh at my perceived obsession with him.
Yeah,
I think it's about
yeah.
making other people laugh more than
Because
anything.
you lean into it, right? Because
Yeah,
once you do
yeah,
something like that, honestly, it's sort of me with owls and so on.
yeah,
Pineapple on
exactly.
pizza, and
Yeah,
there are three or four things that it's not like I'm making it up, but I lean into it because it amuses people, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. I don't even know how it started. I actually think it started with Vin Diesel. I thought Vin Diesel was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And then I imagined that he was best friends with Rob. I don't know. I just invented this
They should be
weird
best friends.
story to amuse people,
So
and it worked.
fanfic is what you're talking about there.
What's that?
Fanfic is what you're talking about there.
What it is?
Yeah. When you invent stories about celebrities doing stuff together.
Oh, okay.
You're
Okay.
writing like you've got like internal fanfic going with your
But
faves.
it's not. It only happens in concordance with other people.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I just started amusing Dan with it or something, and
Right. And it did
it's
amuse
still
us. So it's like, well, yeah, let's just do more of this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it makes sense. Relatable.
But it's turned into like a real appreciation of The Rock, and so I see all his movies and stuff, but I'm not into wrestling.
Right.
No,
I mean,
I just like him doing action shit.
he does seem like a pretty solid citizen. I've seen him in some roles that I really, what was that? Oh, there was that weird film called Southern something. You know the one that he was in, and Sarah Michelle Gellar was in it.
Oh, I don't
Oh
think I've seen that.
God damn it. Southern Rock, Sarah Michelle.
See, this is the good part of the internet.
Southland Tales. Southland Tales. You seen that?
No.
Oh well, maybe check it out. It's a weird film.
I'll go
It's a
for it.
weird
I
film.
love it. It's got The Rock in it.
Yes you will. Yes you will, and it's quite a role.
My new obsession is Fat Thor.
Is what?
Fat Thor, you know Thor.
Fat Thor. Oh yeah, like in the latest. Yeah,
I fucking love Fat Thor.
I liked Fat Thor. He was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I love it. I love
that thing where he's giving people shit online who he's playing video games with and stuff. That was just quality moments.
When he goes to see his mum and he like gets a little bit kind of like, tearful and emotional. Yeah. I don't know. He's like an ideal man, I think.
What I hesitate to ask, but what about him makes him the ideal man in your view?
He's comfortable with himself, He's cool with who he is. He's not bothered about his belly. He's okay with it.
Yeah.
He's funny and he's sensitive.
And he's a god.
Yeah.
Take or leave the god aspect.
Yeah.
Right. Fair enough.
You know way too much about me than you needed.
Oh no, I think just the correct amount. Really. Well, something I didn't know until I started stalking you online over the last few days was that you were born in England.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know that, but I was also wondering, sort of, when did you move over and why, and what's the story there?
Oh, it's like the whole usual thing of coming over with your family. So, when I was 8 or 9, my dad came on. My dad's a university lecturer, and he came on sabbatical to Auckland University, and so we came over here, and we were going to stay for a year, and then we stayed for 4 years, and then we went back to the UK so my parents could sort of like ascertain whether a permanent move was the way to go. And then we came back to New Zealand and stayed here. And interestingly, here's an interesting little 80s tidbit that you'll probably appreciate. Although I found people in New Zealand don't get it quite so much. My mum told me later on that they'd actually chosen to come here because of the threat of nuclear war in Britain.
Wow. Oh, and that would have been during the, longy
the Cold War.
Stance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember all that pretty well. Actually, when it happened, being a kid.
And I don't know about you. Like I've talked to other, New Zealanders who grew up here, and most people didn't seem to have this kind of terror of nuclear war. But definitely in the UK, we did, and I used to have nightmares about it as a kid. And we lived quite near to a US airbase, so we were constantly having aircraft practicing low flying right over our house. And I remember that as a kid, like you could basically see that they were so low, you could see the pilot in the cockpit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the planes that are able to take off vertically.
Uh, they have like an initialism like
Yeah,
BT.
or they've got Harriers. Harriers.
Right.
They used to fly the Harriers over. And what I remember one time they flew a what I think was probably a Vulcan bomber, those big V-shaped craft that carried the nuclear weapons. They
Yikes.
flew that over our village, and I remember everyone just coming out and going, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, I mean that's an experience you'd never have here. I mean, obviously we have a military. We don't really have an well, I shouldn't say this, but
Do we
we
have any
don't
air?
really have an air force. Not
No,
really.
we don't, do we?
We
No.
had some kind of, you know, not particularly great jets for a long time, and then they decided
We've
they're
got,
just
we've got a
costing.
Hercules. We've got that
Yeah,
Hercules.
yeah. We've got some helicopters. We've got some transport ships. We don't have any fighter jets anymore. We had some crusty old ones for a while. But my point being that, it's quite easy to grow up in New Zealand and almost not be aware that we really have a military and to feel like you're a long way away from any trouble that could occur. That even if there were a nuclear war, it's probably going to be more the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, it's like it's over there. It's horrible, but it's whereas in the UK, you're well, in the 80s, we were very, very aware of it. I was in the UK when Chernobyl happened, actually, and
Oh, right.
oh, we just didn't know what was going on. Yeah, that was scary.
I do remember that happening. I was at school and there were posters that I remember went up talking about uh, the number of people who died and so on. And I mean, I could tell even when I was young that it was a big deal, but didn't really understand it particularly well, I
Yeah,
suppose.
it's so crazy, eh? Like, I think just touching on the goth thing,
Hmm.
I do wonder whether the goth subculture somewhat came out of the nuclear threat in the UK, like that
Ah,
at that time,
I
like
see
that
you
sort of
making connections.
yeah, like oh, you're just making intersections there. Um, I've really wondered about that, especially when you listen to early sisters and
Hmm.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
very much that kind of idea of well, we could all just die tomorrow.
yeah, just I guess an artistic kind of processing of this general sort of dread and malaise that a lot
Yeah,
of people felt
yeah,
about the
definitely.
future.
Mm,
That I mean, we've had so much. I guess we've been so long. It's been so long since any nuclear weapons were dropped in a conflict that I suppose, and the Cold War's over. Well,
yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah,
The Russia US one anyway.
yeah.
Um,
We don't know what's coming up. Mm.
yeah, we don't know what's next. Maybe the dread will come back. Maybe it's already here. Politics.
COVID dreads.
Yeah. Well, it'd be great for the goth revival. Does it really need
Yeah,
one? I mean, it seems to be trucking along.
yeah,
Um,
it is, isn't it? It's still going. It's quite different now, but it is still
yeah,
going.
yeah, and well, I mean, obviously, I've got sort of goth related questions and stuff to ask you. But well, I was having this conversation with. Well, actually, there's an article that's doing the rounds about sort of elder goths and so on. People who have stayed involved in with the subculture, I guess, well into their sort of 50s, maybe even 60s, and so on now. And what makes, say, the goth subculture a subculture that can basically bear the involvement of older people in it, um, versus some that seem not to, that seem to have lasted a few years, being very youth oriented, and then once then people kind of aged out of it or something,
Yeah,
and
like
then well, I wasn't going to say it, but now
I
I'm
said,
going to say it. You said it for me. Thank you very much. Yeah, well, I actually, I did find myself wondering a few years ago. I was like, what happened to them? And I sort of found out, like the people who stayed, well, the people who were emo when they were like teenagers and maybe young adults, what they got into was like hardcore music.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and they ditched the fashion more or less. They've still got like a lot of colorful tattoos and maybe they have twirly moustaches and stuff now, but it's that guy. Like he was an emo when he was a kid, and now he goes to hardcore gigs. Um, so I had a flatmate who was in the hardcore scene, and I was like, well, that's what happened to all you guys.
Yeah, they become the people with the tattoos up their necks and the
Yeah,
beards
yeah,
and full sleeves and yeah, those guys.
yeah. But it doesn't sort of have the continuity or coherency of the goth subculture, I guess. Actually, the one that was making me think of was well, the other one where I see a lot of older people, or like a very broad spectrum of ages of people involved, was steampunk. Like if you go to any kind of steampunk thing, it's like you'll see people there from 20 to 80. I mean, even more of a heavier age, older people waiting. And what really what really strikes me as interesting about that subculture is that it didn't start with music. It actually
No,
it invented the music, like almost retro. It's like, oh, we need some music for this thing, and so these steampunk bands just kind of like, oh well, capitalism will provide. There's a market for whatever steampunk music would be, and these bands just decided they would invent steampunk music, which is
yeah,
just it's
steampunk's interesting, isn't it? It's I've heard people describe it as brown goth with cogs.
mm,
It's sort of accurate, but yeah, you're right. It just sort of it almost came out of just an idea, didn't it? It
yeah,
just
an
somebody had
aesthetic.
an idea for it, an aesthetic, an
Yeah,
idea, maybe some literature or something.
yeah. I'm sure there's some books and obviously people just who really like Victorian futurism, right?
Mm.
Like what the Victorians imagined the future would look like, or how we imagine they imagined, or whatever. And people
Yeah,
started just building things, and then enough community started to exist around it that I mean, I'm sure I'm probably getting this somewhat wrong. Someone will pick me up on it, but that's what it seemed to me from the outside, anyway.
have you been to any of that um, stuff that goes on in Oamaru?
Uh, I have been to that stuff when it comes here. Like there used to be a steampunk ball, or maybe there still is, and that it would come to Wellington. It would be over a few days. There'd be gigs, music, people selling their stuff, everyone dressing up, like that kind of thing. But I know Oamaru's like the mecca uh, in this country for that kind of thing. Have you?
No, I haven't. I sort of don't really know that much about it,
Mm.
except that they stick cogs on everything.
Yeah,
But, yes,
yeah. You ever heard the expression "cog slapper"? They
cogs
just
like yeah,
yeah,
cogs.
as
Slap a
a
cog
as
on
a
it. Yeah, got
term
a
of
hat
derision.
with a cog on
Yeah,
it. Yeah, but it's kind of cool that it's
it is kind of cool, but I like functional
blasted like that.
cogs. I like when the cogs do stuff, not
Yeah,
just
the
like
cog should be functional, not
yeah,
just decorative. It's a bit
yeah,
like goss, like zips. If you're gonna have a lot of zips, the zips
yeah.
should be functional, not just decorative.
That's right.
Things should have a reason.
Oh, yeah. There's a bunch of fashion things like that where I don't know, maybe it's just there's some inner pragmatist or something that I object to certain things in fashion. One of the things I object to is when people they you remember there's that fashion thing where people wear like roses over one eye. You seen that?
No, I've never seen that.
Yeah, I think it's sort of maybe like a gothic Lolita type fashion thing, but they'll have
I've
like
never
these
seen
roses over
that.
one eye, and it just annoys me that somebody is making a fashion statement where they actually remove their stereoscopic vision. You know,
Hmm,
it just uh
that's yeah. I'm gonna look for it
yeah
after this.
yeah I'm sure it has a name. I just can't remember what it is
I haven't.
actually that segues us very nicely into one of your recent obsessions that you had to give up. Who telling me about? Like, is it taiko drumming?
Oh yeah, how does that tie in with roses over your eye?
Well, it's just like Japanese
Oh,
culture.
yeah, I suppose
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, taiko drumming's amazing. So it's Japanese drumming. I'm
Mm,
sure most people have probably seen it, heard it. I did that for quite a few years, and I ended up letting it go for now
mm,
because I'd sort of got so far that I was on the performance team, but I just couldn't really commit to the practices because my schedule is really all over the place. I never know when I'm working because
Right.
I get called in.
Right.
And so yeah, it's really great. I really loved it because it's a mixture of music and martial arts, which are both things I really enjoy. And it's an instrument I could actually play, and it's quite physical. But yeah, it was. I'm sure I'll come back to it in the future. So I do really love it.
I didn't know there was a martial art component to it. Does it incorporate sort of dance that is
Yeah,
martial?
it's the movement really, and all the
Right.
stances and things are very, very similar to what you do in martial arts. You know, kind of the low stances and the arm movements, and yeah, it's that kind of element of it. Yeah.
I know I know that you've done a lot of well, I guess as well as dancing, a lot of sort of martial arts and that sort of thing, which I suppose goes
Yeah,
back to your interest in sort of performance
movement.
and movement. But what sort of martial arts have you been involved with, and what kind of
Oh my
dancing
god,
styles, and like a lot?
I've done all sorts of things. Yeah, over the years, like I've probably spent the longest time doing wushu,
Hmm.
which is Chinese martial arts.
That's quite sort of
And
acrobatic, isn't it?
yeah, I was hopeless. Like, okay, you know how we were talking about being kind of average at things,
Yeah.
but really liking them. That's me.
Hmm.
Love doing martial arts, really average, never going to be very good, but just kept going because I really love it.
Hmm.
But my knees, probably can't remember when I stopped doing it, but maybe in my 30s, my knees just weren't handling all the jumping and stuff anymore.
Hmm.
So I try to do things now that don't involve too much jumping. My knees are
Right.
so much better. Yeah, basically it got to the point where I went to the physio and they said, well, you can keep doing this and have arthritis when you're 50,
Hmm.
which is not very far away now. So I'm really glad that I did stop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know a few
yeah.
people with arthritis. It's definitely no
Oh,
fun.
I loved it, but in retrospect, just really glad. I'm really glad that I stopped. Yeah, I did all sorts of stuff. I did wrestling. Ah,
Ah,
I did wrestling for
another
quite a few.
link. The Rock.
Yeah, with The Rock. It's all coming together.
Mm.
And I did kendo for a while, which is Japanese
Sword
sword.
fighting. Yeah.
And I've done all sorts of stuff. Yeah. But yeah,
And did you start that quite early?
yeah, 13.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, and well, you've the other thing I know that you've done quite a lot of is sort of DJing and being involved as a performer and organizer with a lot of goth events and so on over the years.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I did dance for a long time. Like, I used to, when I was in university, I kind of paid my way a bit as a belly dancer.
Hmm.
Yeah, I used to go all over the place and perform at people's parties and stuff like that. And it was really fun. I really love it.
Mm.
And I remember kind of like, I guess in the early 90s, someone said, oh, I don't know why you don't do something like this for a goth event. And I was like, oh, God, goths aren't going to want to see this. And then some goths started coming to see me at, Middle Eastern shows and in restaurants and stuff, and they really liked it. And I was like, maybe we could go somewhere with this. And so I started making stuff that could actually work in a goth environment. And then I came across people overseas at that time who were kind of doing like gothic belly dance. I was like, not
Yeah.
the interesting. And it gave me a bit of creative outlet and reason to come up with interesting things. And I guess later on when I was doing my master's, I kind of like pulled that into my video work as well. So it all sort of connects through. There's a bit of a thread going through. But previous to that, I started doing goth events in Auckland in the sort of mid 90s with
Mm.
Mark Warbank of Club Bazaar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You
so
still in contact with him, actually?
no, he doesn't really talk to me.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Is there some bad blood?
yeah, I wish I was still in contact with him.
Yeah.
But goth dramas.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did lots of stuff together, and then there was various different goth events that went on. So I was basically pretty solidly involved from kind of mid 90s through to 2007, 2008, something like that.
I've got a poster here from the 2000, I guess, goth ball, or was it like vampire ball maybe, that has you on it, having done
Oh
something. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
my hallway.
There's so much stuff. I've actually got a massive scrapbook of all sorts of
Oh, that's so cool. I
things, and
I like
yeah, and it was
the
there were
thing.
so many people involved with this stuff. Like the whole goth thing was so exciting and so interesting, and Rupert and Mel
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
did loads of stuff with them. They were my really good mates, and then later on there was a bunch of us who kind of started up the circadian rhythms.
Oh, yeah, I remember. I went to a few of them.
Yeah, yeah, and that went for a few years, and that did really, really well. Goth clubs tend to have a bit of a lifespan. They're really, really popular and then someone
Yeah,
else does something next week.
yeah.
But I'm just not really that involved anymore. I don't really know what's going on.
Mm. And what do
I
you?
mean, you guys have got a good thing going in Wellington, but
Well, yeah, yeah, it's good in the sense that we do have it. We have a shadow place, so we have that going on 4 times a year, and then there are other more regular things and one-off type things that happen. But I don't know. What do you? Why do you think you're not as involved maybe now as you used to be? What are the factors?
well, one thing is just being older and getting tired. It's like
Mm.
you go out and it's like 10:30 and you're thinking, oh God, I
Ah,
just kind of want to go home now.
yeah,
I mean,
I
yeah,
I sort of find that partly as well. Just like I get
yeah.
tired earlier. I do any drinking, I pay for it much more than I used to.
Oh, I know. I just can't be bothered drinking now because it just makes me feel horrible. Like not even like getting hangovers, but
It's not
just like
hangovers. It's
just
all, for me. I feel like literally just depressed for maybe
yeah, yeah, yeah.
between 1 and 3 days after, a bender, and like the feeling is just like this is awful. It was not worth the experience I had that I don't remember particularly well anyway. So, um, I don't know what the answer to that is really. Maybe more
I,
picnics.
yeah, I don't know the answer. Yeah, I don't know. I like things that start early.
Yeah. Well, we have things that start early, but of course, fucking goths. Like, no one shows up till, ten
No, they're
thirty,
not there
11.
for like 11. Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's
And by
like,
then I want to go home.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
Uh,
my God, there's some drum and bass thing I wanted to go to. There was a drum and bass DJ that's coming up. I can't remember who it was.
oh, you into drum bass?
Ronnie Size. Ronnie Size. I wanted to see Ronnie Size. And
Right.
didn't really start. He didn't come on until 2. And I was like, that we can't. That is
Outrageous.
don't even. Yeah, just go home and listen to a CD.
Mm.
So yeah, there you go. Not a CD, an MP3.
I did see somewhere in one of your timelines you talking about how I think a co-worker was accusing you of being was it a recovering goth or something like that,
Oh
and you were like, ha ha ha, little do you know,
yeah,
you know I'm still one. I just don't bring it to work every day.
yeah.
Mm. I guess I feel like that a lot.
It's just laziness, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like
probably more than anything else.
I
Yeah.
put my makeup on this morning. I wouldn't do that on a Tuesday morning if I wasn't on here with you, looking all beautifully monochrome.
Well, yeah, I only really put on makeup for these streams and so on, which actually does feel like a huge effort, despite it only taking sort of 30 minutes or so.
I know, it's
Uh,
weird, isn't it? It's like it's not even fancy makeup.
no,
Well, I don't
no, it's not. It takes, yeah, it doesn't take
think.
long. It's nothing special, but it's like,
Yeah.
got to put it on and then I got to take it
And then you got to
off.
wash it off, and oh God,
Oh, I've got to go somewhere
life.
else. So, you know, and it's funny too, because you get all these people. Well, I suppose I got a few things happening. One is like people who just kind of think you look like this all the time because that's how you look when they see you, right?
Mm.
Because you meet them through those sorts of things. And in my case, people that I think there's a lot of people out in the world who probably think I drink a lot more than I do.
Because that's when they see you, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, not so much the last few years or whatever, where it's just gotten, too much. Uh, the balance of payments doesn't add up anymore. But I think certainly for a while, because they'd see me at goth events, looking like whatever and drinking. And they're like, oh, that's just who that guy is. And but then they form a whole relationship based on you being that guy when it's not really who you are or what you're
Mm.
like most of the time.
It must be like that for a lot of people, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah, more than a
Especially,
few.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially going out to social events at night, gigs or whatever. You're sort of one person, and then at home you sit on the couch and play Xbox.
What are you playing?
Um, what am I playing?
Yeah, what are you into at the moment?
I've just finished Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which was
Oh,
great.
sweet. You dug it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh,
I'm playing
I love it.
Odyssey at the moment. Have you played
I
that?
love the Assassins. Oh, Odyssey's like my favorite game.
Oh, yeah, I finished all the
Yeah.
main stuff, but there's still so many side quests and shit. I think it's
Have
probably,
you got the DLC as
yeah,
well? The
yeah, I
DLC's
do. So it's probably like another
yeah.
100 hours or something,
Oh,
especially
fuck
at
yeah,
the
easily.
relaxed, at
I've
least
had,
because at the
I have,
relaxed pace I've been playing.
I'm waiting for the DLC for Valhalla to come out,
Hmm.
but I think I've already played 180 hours or something,
Solid.
which sounds crazy. But I don't play all the time at all. Like I might have a day where I'm like, I'm going to play games today, but then
Yeah.
I'm doing all my other shit all the time. So I'm not like I'm not sitting around all the time. So I don't know how I do it.
Well,
I
see,
think I spent a long time, quite a few months on it.
well, this actually leads me into another question, which is, like I said, well, I know what you said to me before. So I was looking at how much stuff that you sort of produced, and it's like, holy shit, this is the most creatively productive person in the world who has ever lived. And you were like, no, I'm just, I'm 46. I've just accumulated a lot of stuff that I've done. But I'm not sure I buy it, Mary. I think I I just think you're quite productive creatively. And to the degree that you agree with me, uh, how do you why do you think that is? And how do you manage to do things, finish them, keep working when it's hard and maybe you don't feel that inspired? And I'm really interested in other people's sort of creative process and how they get things done.
Yeah, you're right. I am quite productive. Actually,
Haha.
lots of people have said that I am quite productive. Um, but I'm not obsessive or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I've noticed like if and you would have
I
found this
think
too, but
okay, so I I do this a lot.
ooh, what's
I
that?
have I do planning. Oh,
Ah,
Monster Inc.
planning.
This is one of my favorite movies.
It's one of your favorite movies.
Monster Inc. Okay, I'll tell you a little thing about Monster Inc. before I
Oh,
share
oh,
this. So
Monster
anyway,
Inc. Okay, yep, sure.
okay, so I do lots and lots of planning.
Hmm.
So I organize. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if it's in
I can see
frame or
it.
whatever.
Yeah, if you move it more towards your chin, it'll be in frame.
Is that better?
No, you move your
Because I've
chin to the
got a
side.
delay on
Yeah,
myself, so I'm just making a lot
yeah,
of
no, that's
myself.
good. That's
But
good.
I do planning all the
Yeah.
time,
Ah,
and I think that probably
yeah.
part of it.
And and you're writing stuff down too, and it's like it's
Yeah,
sitting there
like
staring
I
you in the
don't.
face.
We were talking about earlier on. We were talking about uni. I write everything by hand
Mm,
because then I remember. If I type it, I won't remember.
yeah,
So I only type if I'm writing a blog post or an article or an essay or something like that.
right.
Otherwise, I write everything by hand. Um,
And
so I
that's
remember
the
what I'm doing, and
kinesthetic learning reinforcement or something that you've got going
yeah,
on.
and I do. I create sort of mind maps of what I want to accomplish in
Mm,
any given period of time,
yeah.
and then I plan out how I'm going to do that. So
But then you
um,
stick to it. Like, how do you do the part where you stick to it and actually do it? Where's that come from?
I know I'll hate myself if I don't.
Ah, that's it. So,
Yeah, I hate myself if I don't. So it's a reward based system. If I do it,
yeah.
I'll feel good.
Well, it's carrot and stick, isn't it? Because you get the good
Yes,
feeling of doing it, and you just sit around hating yourself if you don't do it.
but I do fail at plenty of things. I do plan to do things and don't do them. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But what
I get
percentage? How many projects, like say if you did 10 projects or started 10, how many do you think you'd finish?
7.
Yeah, that's fucking amazing. That's top tier productivity.
Yeah, I don't want people
To
to
don't
get
want
the wrong
people.
idea. I don't think that being super super productive all the time is necessarily good for you. That's something I find really interesting. Is people there's this real thing these days where people's identity becomes their issues or something.
Right.
Like particularly with younger people, I've noticed, they're like, I'm this, I have depression, I have panic disorder, I have blah blah blah, and it's like, yeah, but that's not who you are, is it?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I sometimes wonder, like, because it's, you get old enough, it can be hard to sort of think yourself back to being the same age.
Mm.
I mean, I certainly remember being sort of very idealistic, and I remember us kind of talking about those sorts of things in the 90s and stuff, but I I didn't see the same level of identification. Or was it just that the the communication platforms and so on didn't really exist for us to want to maybe distribute or promote aspects of our identities like that back then?
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, the internet has definitely changed that, and also there's like the aspect of if you've got something about yourself that's different, like it could be a disorder, it could or whatever, you can go and talk to a group of people.
Yeah, you can
Get
find
support.
community where once you couldn't, right?
Yeah.
But then
So
there are
there's this
positive and negative effects of it. Yeah,
yeah, you can
yeah,
get support, which is great. But then you can also kind of get sucked into that being
yeah.
your identity. This is what I have. This is who I am.
And also that kind of community can end up normalizing behaviors or proclivities or whatever that maybe shouldn't be, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, definitely. Like they take someone might think, oh, I'm not right. I don't feel right. There's something wrong with me, and then other people online diagnose them.
yeah.
Oh yeah, well that's obviously me. And it's like, do you really want to saddle yourself with that?
Um, yeah. And then that, well, I often just find myself thinking, is this just me getting older and like, am I the one who is out of touch? Uh, is it like, I mean, do you get past a certain age and are you just more or less doomed to find, much younger people?
Oh, but I don't think it's young. I don't think it's just younger people. I've just seen this with a lot of people, even older people,
Yeah,
even people.
yeah, you're right. I have seen kind of buy into to that sort of thinking from
Hmm.
much older people. Um,
And it's just quite strange. Well, I think so anyway.
yeah, no, well, it is strange and it's new. I saw something the other day. Someone was saying, he felt like there's a possibility that with this new ability of people to potentially say something and have 100 million people hear the thing they've said the moment they say it, that we've opened some kind of new Pandora's box in terms of communication that perhaps we're just really not ready for, and then it is going to affect us collectively in well, positive and perhaps very negative ways that we haven't foreseen with with the creation of the technology. Like, I guess what I'm saying is, like, I wonder how much of it is amplification of something that's already there, or that was already there, and how much of it is something new that's been generated. And I suppose that can also be like a kind of a feedback process too, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Like it can get amplified by going backwards and forwards
yeah,
multiple times, and
yeah.
people
Well,
reinforcing it.
and a lot of culture can be like that too, I think. I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's a general cultural thing. Like, you might have, say, some group of people who have some sort of proclivity, whatever it is, um, in the aggregate, perhaps, but then like the culture can actually end up reinforcing it, and so it becomes
yeah,
even more exaggerated than maybe what the natural level of it would otherwise be.
yeah. Definitely, I've definitely seen that. That
Mm,
sort of thing where somebody might have something, a behavior or something, and around their friends might go, that's a bit strange. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if that's appropriate or whatever. But then they get in a group of other people who reinforce it, and it becomes a norm
mm.
when perhaps it's not healthy.
And if
Um,
something becomes a norm, then you can start sort of discriminating against people who don't adhere to the norms too,
yeah,
right?
definitely.
It
Yeah.
becomes normal to do that.
It's,
Um,
and you get real, like, full on tribalism.
yeah,
You know, punk and goth and things like that. They're tribes, but
Well,
the
they're tribes whose values included rejecting convention, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, and I suppose one thing that you can see, and maybe this is just like the maturing of a culture. I mean, I don't know, but they end up creating their own conventions and then uh, enforcing them as norms for people who say want to be involved with whatever the thing
yeah,
is, which is kind
and
of terrible.
creating rule books
Mm,
around behavior and speech
yeah,
and what's appropriate. But then people on the outside might not know what those rules are,
mm,
and then you kind of stumble into them, and it all goes wrong. And
yeah,
yeah, it's this is something quite weird going on, I think.
yeah. I mean, I know young people are a lot more idealistic, and I think that urge has gone into some strange places.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so too.
uh, but I think that urge will always be there. It's like, I mean, I was talking to my dad once, and there was when he was young, and I guess because of the sort of stuff he was involved in, there was this kind of Christian revival music, but it was all these young, very idealistic people, and that's
Yeah,
what their idealism got channeled into, right? So it's just
yeah,
this latent force that is going to go somewhere, because it's just a biological function to a degree, right?
yeah. And when you're younger, you have very, very strong feelings that are quite polar. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's
that's
very black
right.
and white thinking, and you're very strong in it, and you don't really like. I was like that. You don't.
Yeah, I was too. I was too. I was absolutely like that.
Yeah, you kind of don't see the nuances and things at all. So yeah, so yeah, yeah. It is. It is odd. There's lots of oddnesses, but maybe I'm just a bit old.
Um, sorry, I'll just do 1 minute. Actually, I have to take a note. I've got a small domestic emergency. It'll only take me.
Oh, that's okay. I actually need to go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, you do that, and I'll put on a little BRB.
okay, cool.
All right. See you back in a minute. All right. Um, yeah. Sorry about that. My partner had lost her wallet and was getting
Oh,
frantic about trying to find it. So I was just and she's very hungry, so she wanted to go out and get some food. So I lent her mine, and
I'd really like
she's
to
gone
meet
off.
her.
Uh, yeah. Well,
I'd
I
really
was
like
I
to
was
meet her.
I was really surprised that you hadn't.
No.
And yeah, just the stars have never quite aligned because I know, like as I said, I was stalking your timeline. I saw she had actually commented on quite a few things.
Mm.
Um,
Like
so
we're sort of Facebook friends, but
hmm.
I don't post much on Facebook or anything anymore.
Yeah, it's a shame because I like your Facebook. I like Facebook.
Oh, maybe I should put more on.
Oh, it's a
Only got
tough thing,
that
isn't
stuff
it?
on.
Well, we seem to be onto social media a little bit, so we can talk about that if you like. How's your experience of social media in the
Oh,
20s been for you, or tens?
I like. I use Instagram. I like Instagram
Yeah,
because I can just look at artists
yeah. I like
and
that
just
about Instagram too, actually.
yeah.
Mm.
I like the way Instagram can be quite curated. Like I know people say that it's really bad for you and what have you, but it depends on who you follow. Like I don't
Yeah,
follow
that's
any
right.
influencers or anything.
Yeah.
So
No, yeah, I mostly follow just well, I follow people I know and friends and so on.
yeah,
Uh,
same.
but uh I follow this one girl who just paints pictures, watercolors of cats. Like people send her funny cat photos, and then she just paints a watercolor version of the photo. And it's just so charming,
Yeah,
delightful. And cats that make that kind of ick noise, and
yeah.
I mean, kind of
All of that
fluff really, but you know,
it's great.
it's stress relieving in a way, Whereas Facebook, yeah, it can be a stressful pace. And I mean, I don't know if you've had much experience with Twitter, but
Oh God, no,
uh,
I won't
that
go near it.
yeah, that can really be awful. Um,
Oh, it just seems like such a horrible, yeah,
it's I think I
confrontational.
mean, I do know people who love Twitter, but the people I know who love Twitter have very, very heavily um, cultivated feeds, that they put a lot of time and effort into just weeding out the wheat from the chaff.
Mm.
Uh, so I mean, maybe that's possible. I think the bubbles that can form on Twitter are even worse than the bubbles that you can form on on Facebook, and can you form like a can you form a little political bubble for yourself on Instagram? I suppose you could if you wanted to enough. Um,
I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could. You could be just the same on Instagram as on Twitter. You could
yeah,
get
but
your little group of rabid weirdos.
yeah, and just to hear their takes on the world constantly
Yeah,
as you
yeah,
doom scroll through them, saying, "Yeah, shit is like that. It is,
yeah,
and isn't
yeah.
it
Those people
awful?"
are terrible. They
And I
all
feel
suck.
terrible about
Yeah,
everybody and everything, and I'm still scrolling, and I'm not going to stop, and I'm here till
yeah.
4 a.m. Yeah, um,
I,
which
I
is
tried Twitter. I tried Twitter once.
yeah,
I made an account. I still got it, but I don't use it at all.
mm,
And I was posting about art a bit because I thought, oh, might be quite cool. I can, find other art people and things. And I
mm,
went to see this talk by some Maori woman artists, and
yeah.
so I posted about that. And I had my first experience of someone just randomly finding my tweet and deciding to have a go at me
Really?
about, oh, I don't know, it was some kind of like MRA type guy
Oh
having a
yeah.
go at me about how Māori women artists have got it easy or something like
Oh
that. And I'm
man.
just like, oh, for
Oh,
fuck's
what a
sake.
nightmare. Didn't you
Yeah.
say?
So
Didn't I
it's
read
like,
something? Didn't you have a similar experience with some pre-Raphaelite art work?
oh yeah, that was just so weird.
Mm,
I there was a pre-Raphaelite art book, and people were sort of sharing their work and things on it.
yeah,
And I thought, oh, I'll share one of my images because I think the people here might like it because it's
yeah.
quite, it's quite flowy and it's got like a pre-Raphaelite feel, and I love that art and I was influenced by it.
Hmm.
So I posted it, and it was one. It was actually I was the model because yes, it was after lockdown, and I was going to shoot a model, but I couldn't because we went into lockdown. So I ended
Yeah.
up shooting myself because I needed to finish this project for a show. I've
Right.
never been the model before, but it worked out well. And it was a floaty one, like I had sort of my arms up in the air, and
Oh, I know the pictures. Yes, I've seen them.
yeah, you
Yeah.
couldn't you couldn't even see that it was me because I had like a whole cap thing on. You could just see my face.
I thought you'd shaved your head. I was like, wow, that is
No, I
dedication.
know. I couldn't save my head,
Oh, good
and
job.
um, and I posted it, and then I just got these guys just like fucking going at me and going, "What are you posting this rubbish on here? You're the problem with people coming to this thing. You're just a fucking model promoting yourself and blah blah blah." And I was like, "What?" And I was
Jesus.
like, I'm not a model. I'm an artist.
Yeah.
It is me, but for this reason." And
Yeah.
they were like, "I'll tell you what's wrong." There was like three of them. "I'll tell you what's wrong with this picture. There's no detail in the background, and the girl's got too much makeup." And I wasn't wearing any makeup at all, and it was just like it was so weird. And a bunch of people
Madness.
like, came along and defended me, but at that point, I was just like, no.
Yeah. Oh, what have I wandered into?
I know. I just
This
have zero tolerance
pit of
for
vipers.
internet fights. I just can't be
Yeah.
bothered. Mm.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I really can't. But then I worry, you know, because I'm avoiding just places where it would just are constantly unpleasant. Does that mean I'm just kind of creating a distorted view of the world for myself because I'm just creating a view of the world through social media that makes me comfortable, right? Um,
Well, okay. So I've got a thought on that.
yeah,
I
what
think.
is it?
So I'm just going to sit here and eat my raspberries.
Go hard.
I think that that's fine. That's fine if you're just using social media as a place to find information about non-political things. You just want some enjoyment out of it. I
Hmm.
think it's absolutely fine. I think it's only a problem if you are getting your political information
Yeah,
off of social media and making decisions based on that and thinking that everyone agrees with you.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's not the case, so I don't think it
yeah.
matters.
Well, I mean, from my point of view, what I want in terms of the world, in terms of information about it, is just basically just the facts, uh, in as clear and sort of unbiased a manner as they could be presented. And then it's like, I can make up my own mind how to feel about them or what to
Yeah.
sort of think about them politically, but it feels like something that's become increasingly difficult to do. Um, especially on some topics, there are certain sources of information I don't mind too much, where there's not too much kind of spin or bias. Um, but I think it's just tempting for so many people that they have such strong views about the world that they will only allow information in
That
that
reinforces it.
reinforces those views.
Yeah,
And then
so
like, I mean, look at what happened in America on January the 6th. You
yeah,
have people that have just been in these bubbles, gotten a completely distorted view of reality, but one that they all share, one that maybe a
yeah,
large number of people can all share together. And then that prompts, pretty dramatic action. And I mean, it's certainly not something that's exclusive to the far right, although, obviously it's a big problem there. But
but yeah,
across
definitely
the
seeing it
spectrum,
far left as
yeah,
well. Like,
yeah, oh, for sure.
like there's all these people, and then in the middle who are kind
Mm,
of normal, and then there's these crazies off at either end, just
yeah. And
being
I've been looking at some kind of studies that have been tracking the degrees of polarization in, well, American politics at least over decades. And you can honestly see the graphs. You can just see these two distributions of right and left, and Republican and Democrat voters just moving farther and farther apart as people, and that seems to have been accelerated by the advent of social media. Um,
definitely.
and it's just, I feel like journalism should be our sense making organ in the world. I'm going off a bit of rant. I know. I'm sorry, but I feel like
Oh no,
journalism
I find
should
this
be,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like it should be how we make sense of the world. And there can be a little bit of spin and bias in that, but if there's too much, you can just end up with these kind of tribes now that just have such distorted views of reality, that they can't even communicate with each other about what once upon a time, not that long ago, would have been just shared basic understandings of
yeah,
material facts about reality. Uh,
yeah, yeah. I know.
and it's like, man, I don't know where this goes, but it doesn't seem to be going anywhere good.
I just
And I
yeah,
don't know
like
what the right thing to do about it is as just one person.
I wish that there was a news source that
Mm,
didn't have opinion columns. Like
yeah,
everything is an editorial or an opinion.
yeah.
And
I
even if it's not, it's still got opinion content in it.
Yes,
I just want
yeah. It's like I can figure
facts.
out my opinion. I can do that.
Yeah.
You don't have to
I,
tell
I
me
don't
what to
need you
think.
to tell
Yeah,
me what
yeah,
opinion I should have.
yeah. Just tell me what happened. Who was involved, where, what, why, who,
Yeah.
etc. Um, yeah. Well, well, not to be pimping for any sources or anything. I feel like maybe Reuters isn't too bad for that kind of information. They're not too bad. And I've actually been, if you look at the Wall Street Journal, but you only read their news, like not their opinion,
Yeah.
yeah, because their opinion is, I mean, it's separate and it probably leans slightly kind of center right, but their actual news is pretty free of at least overt bias. Man, there was this Twitter account that's this news org that basically what they do is they have like a panel of people across the political spectrum, and the articles have to get past all of them before anything gets published. And what they publish is so free from bias. It's just beautiful, but they don't publish very much, and they publish almost nothing that's political. So it's like, well, what's here is great, but I mean, that's the problem, that even these critics are so polarized that they just won't let anything through because they claim that all these material facts are themselves evidence of bias. So, I don't know, Mary. You figure out what to do. You tell me.
I've got no idea,
I'll
but
just sit here biting my nails until
I am
Armageddon.
interested in the kind of manipulation of language that's going on.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
way the meaning of words changes very quickly,
Mm,
and a word can mean something like a word that meant something 10 years ago is now something else.
yes. Yeah, and
And
it can be used as a kind of baton,
yeah,
as like
and truth is
wielded by the powerful.
truth and reality have become subjective.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
which is, I mean, that's the whole kind of postmodern experiment in a way, isn't it? Just to talk about, and you'll know this from your fine arts degree and like living in the art world and everything, that it's a huge influence. It's all about subjectivity, the closest you get to, I think, any kind of acknowledgement of material reality or objective reality is what they call intersubjective reality, which is just kind of an acknowledgement that everything's subjective, but maybe we can agree on some stuff in order to do some things. Maybe. Let's not get carried away. Let's not get too bold. Um,
Yeah, I think that sort of postmodern theory is interesting
hmm,
when it's in academia, like when it's
hmm,
in the art world, when it's
yeah.
in the academic world, but I don't think it's useful when it leaks into Twitter.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I first sort of got into it, I mean, I was all about Derrida and Foucault, and I was really interested in those guys,
Oh God,
and
Derrida.
they had a lot of ideas that I thought were really creatively useful. Um, like Derrida's idea about the text, and how there's nothing outside it, and basically, I mean, that might be interesting to you too, with your interest in
It
forming
is
connections
for
between things, right?
for a thought experiment and
Yeah,
for yeah,
yeah. So that was cool. But there is a kind of, if you dig into that stuff far enough, at the bottom, there does seem to be this denial of objective reality and
mm,
the kind of claim that all that exists is power and hierarchies, and
yeah, yeah,
all you should really be doing is trying to upset and reorder or invert whatever power or power hierarchy you think exists in the world. And oof, I mean, maybe if that's what you want to do with your life, but often what seems to come out of it is just really, really angry people full of really bad ideas that are destructive, and honestly, a lot of people who just want to completely tear everything down.
yeah.
And who it's like, have you read any history? Do you know what actually tearing everything down looks like? Do you know what how much suffering and destruction and just ruined people and lives is always a consequence of the kind of thing you're advocating. And with no guarantee it'll get better.
I'm always surprised by people. It sort of seems to be a lot of people who kind of identify as like anti-fascist and at the
Mm.
same time kind of communist or Marxist. And you're kind of like,
Yeah, I get some
what,
cognitive dissonance with that one too,
what's
actually.
going on here? Like, how in what world did communism work?
Oh
Like,
man.
oh God, these tyrannies, tyrannical regimes, and then people,
Yes,
oh,
but
it just didn't get a chance. You're like, wow, it's had a few chances, hasn't
there have
it?
been many, yeah, it has had quite a few chances, and it's like, well, even if the chances, in my view, didn't result in what the intent was, if that's always the result, more or
Yeah,
less, then maybe the project is doomed by something like human nature, and
exactly. It's like they
by the
had a good
cut.
idea,
Hmm,
not going to work with
yeah,
humans.
no, and I mean, one of my biggest kind of criticisms, I suppose, of communism is I just feel it's so crushing and destructive to the human creative and striving spirit.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I know that's kind of maybe that's a bit of a woolly criticism, but for all its faults, I quite like. I mean, personally, politically, I quite like the idea of something like welfare capitalism. Like sort of Scandinavian type implementations of
You've got something kind of like that here.
yeah,
It's not
yeah.
that far off.
No, it's not. It's not. We're not too far off. And if you're really concerned about people who are suffering um, through material deprivation and want, it seems like a better direction to head in than like burn everything down, institute communism.
How's
Uh,
that going to, all the people that are suffering now, how's that actually going to help them? And everyone else is going to go down with it.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, well, if nothing else, it's going to be an interesting few decades, I guess,
Mm.
in possibly a horrific sense. I mean, hopefully not. It's just I don't know. The more I think about it, and maybe this is a good reason to stay off social media and stay out of my own bubbles, uh, the more pessimistic I get, and I just,
Yeah.
I really hope things can get better without getting a lot worse first.
Well,
Um,
Dan's kind of banned me from social media a bit,
yeah,
apart from Instagram, because I get too angry.
um, yeah, yeah, well, I can understand that. I try to regulate my consumption. Um,
Oh, yeah. I just get really angry and despondent. So it just doesn't seem worth it, I think.
Well, for a sudden dramatic change of pace, and seeing as you brought up Dan, I know he calls you a lunatic puffin.
Yeah, it does.
How did you come by that particular term of endearment?
Okay, so you've seen how a puffin walks with its
Uh,
little
is it kind
wings
of?
tucked back.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, so puffins, they're sort of they have their wings behind them and they kind of waddle along.
Hmm.
He thinks that I look like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, I think my partner's been called a penguin before
Well, I'm
for
a puffin.
similar reasons. Oh, we've got to get you two in
Yeah,
the same video, walking side by side.
we can waddle along together, puffin and penguin.
And I can be a sloth.
Is that what you are?
I don't know.
You're
I'm not sure how I
an
walk.
owl, aren't you an owl?
It's how I feel, more often than not. Well, what about oh, what other kind of fun stuff I got here to ask you about? Well, you're into Lego, right? I've seen like a lot of your pictures. There's like little Lego figurines hanging out, and you've gotten some new the Star Wars Cantina set.
The Lost Arsley Cantina set for
Yeah,
Christmas.
yeah.
Lucky.
And I mean, I was really into Lego as a kid, and actually, I've got a nephew. I buy him Lego most years. What's really sad is he's kind of starting to grow out of it because it was really fun for me at Christmas to buy him Lego and then build it with him.
Yeah.
Um,
How old is he?
uh, well, I think he's. Oh, someone's gonna get mad at me for getting this wrong. I think he's like probably about 11, but he's getting more into sort of
Yeah.
computers and animation and.
What's happening here, and you've got to watch out for this, is he's entering the Lego dead zone, sort of between 11 and early 20s, where people think that they don't like Lego anymore because they're too grown up, and they sell it all, and then they get a bit older, and they go, oh, fuck, all of my Lego, I wish I still had it. So watch out for him in the Lego dead zone. Don't let him sell his Lego.
I'll warn his parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually feel like that about a lot of the Transformers I owned as a kid. Although I don't think I've ever particularly gotten back into wanting to own them, but I definitely wish I still had them because some of them would be worth a few bucks, man.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, those first
I've
generations.
still got. When I was a kid, I was really into space Lego. You
Mhm.
know, the classic space with the.
Oh yeah, and like they had those helmets, and that bit would always break.
Yeah. I was really into that, and I still have all my sets, and I still have all the pieces from
Fuck
when I was.
yeah!
Yeah.
Oh, you must have been such a well-behaved child.
Well, we didn't get a lot of toys.
Yeah.
Like we weren't like deprived or anything, but yeah, we didn't get a lot. I'd get like one Lego set for Christmas or something. So I took really good care of it because I loved it. It's my favourite. Now I've got so much Lego. In fact, in our wedding vows, Dan agreed to provide me with all the Lego that I'd grown accustomed to.
And has he made good on that promise today?
Fuck yes.
Yeah, good
So
man.
much. I got so much.
Um,
It's wonderful. I got into it as an adult,
Yeah.
actually as a mental health thing,
yeah, really?
because building Lego is very calming for the
Yeah,
brain.
I can see that. I find it quite calming, although I hadn't really thought about it that way.
It's amazing. Like
Yeah.
you know, people actually who've had brain injuries and things use Lego as a tool to kind of get their
That makes a lot of
function back.
sense.
Yeah, but
I
it's
try.
amazing for just your mental health. I find.
There's so many things, and this is something I think that young people are often quite good at. Maybe just because of the way they've grown up and the environment that they've grown up in, but they seem to pay attention to the things that they find calming and soothing, and pursue them. Like, like
Yeah,
ASMR would be an example of that. But there's lots of examples, and I sort of feel like, yeah, there are definitely things that I find calming and soothing, but I've never really paid attention to what they are and actually pursued them in order to kind of try and regulate myself or anything if I ever feel like I'm not as calm as I want to be. Like swimming in the sea was one of those things. Like I
yeah,
don't,
swimming is
yeah,
soothing.
it's like as a kid, I used to go swimming in the sea all the time, and then I didn't until maybe like 2010. I just happened to be in a situation where people were swimming. It's like, oh yeah, I'll get in. It's like, wait, this is really cool. Like, why don't I?
Yeah.
I live fucking next door to the sea. I could be doing this every day if I wanted to. Um, yeah, I mean, Lego would definitely be another one of those things. But there's
You need to kind of, you know how you're talking about the horror of the internet and social
yeah,
media.
yeah.
Um, I
What?
think you need something to slow your brain down, and I find that Lego really slows down my
Hmm.
raging brain,
Yeah,
um, and sort of gives me a chance for a pause because you're concentrating on making the thing, so you can't really think about other things.
yeah,
It sort of takes you out of yourself.
yeah. That's
You know
right.
how we're talking about how your brain, was I talking to you about it? How your brain gets in the way of your own creative process. You've kind of
Um,
got to
no, but I
make,
can imagine.
yeah,
Hmm.
shut it off, and Lego helps with that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, actually, here's something else I want to point out. We are both Reeds. How about that? We might even be
Oh,
related at some point. I know there are a
where
lot of
where
Reeds
are the
though.
reeds from your family from? Mine are
Um,
from Montrose.
uh, it's a good question. My grandmother was a Reed, and it was a Scottish family, I guess, obviously. But yeah, maybe I need to do some digging to find out. Because
Yeah,
is it just like the Scots word for red or something like that?
I'm not entirely
No,
sure.
no,
Sounds right.
yeah.
Yeah, sounds
Um,
like.
um. Oh, and actually, the other thing that I haven't asked you about is well, we touched on it, but like I suppose one of our mutual connections is Jordan Rain, who
Oh, I love it, Jordan.
if she isn't listening now, she'll be listening to this later.
Hi, Jordan.
Hi Jordan. Um, and I think yeah, I don't know if you remember, but when I was living in Auckland, I don't think I'd seen you for years at that point. But I came to a gig of hers in Auckland at the King's Arms, RIP. Uh, and you were managing her at the time, I think.
I
And
was.
and I just came in and I was like, "Hey Mary, what's up?" And you're like, I was like, "Yeah, yeah, no, that's oh yeah, yeah, that's right, that guy from back in the day." Then it would have been like maybe
Sure.
2006, 2007. Uh, yeah. So I mean, how did you end up meeting Jordan and then like you were actually managing her for a while at
Yeah.
least,
So meet Jordan.
and you've acted in her like one of her music videos, in fact.
Yeah, and I've done a couple of album covers for her.
Yeah.
How did I meet her? I think I just met her at a gig in Wellington.
Oh, down here, not in Auckland.
Yeah. It was before. It was during the Dr. Kevorkian and Suicide Machine
Oh
days.
yeah, that was when I
I
was
think
in the
I met
band.
you.
Huh.
I think I met you then as well.
Oh, entirely possible. Entirely
Yeah,
possible.
I think that would be when I met you because you were playing bass in the band, right?
Guitar, but yes, yeah,
Guitar. Sorry,
yeah,
guitar. Yes. Okay. Because Jordan plays guitar as well, so I'm not quite sure.
yes.
But yeah, I think I met her there. And I don't really know how we ended up becoming such good friends. I can't remember.
Hmm.
I think we just got along.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so I did album artwork for the Loneliest of Creatures.
Oh yeah.
Oh, hold on, there's someone at the door. One
That's
moment.
okay.
It's
That's
right
right.
here.
It's fine. Let's pause it. Oh, welcome back.
Oh, I got a massive bunch of flowers from Dan because
Oh,
it's our wedding anniversary today.
oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Congratulations. Is it 1 year,
yeah.
2 years?
What's that?
How many years? One, two, three?
Three.
3 years. Nice. Um. Oh, you've moved your face a bit. Oh yeah, no, there you are.
Sorry,
It's
hold on.
okay.
I
No, you're
can't
good.
tell.
You're good.
I'm sitting on my comfy couch.
Oh, yeah. I only have scummy couches. I need to get
Yeah.
rid of some of the furniture here. It's getting a little cramped, actually.
Oh, our couch is just dreadful, but yeah.
Mm. Oh, so
Um,
yeah, you were talking about so you were managing Jordan, and I didn't
yeah,
actually I didn't actually know you'd done cover art for her for any of her
yeah.
albums.
I did the cover art for the Loneliest of Creatures,
Hmm.
which was the one about Voyager Pro. It got
Oh, I know the one. Yeah, I've
space.
listened to it.
So
Yeah.
it's such a sad album. Oh
Mm.
my god. And then she asked me to manage her.
Mm. Oh, right.
Mm. And so yeah, and but then that was before she went off to Germany, I think,
Right. Yeah.
maybe. And then yeah, she did the Karamea project Um, and I did the album artwork for that, and I was in her video for it because she was overseas at the time, so I was her stand-in. She just
Oh,
needed to find a
oh,
convenient gender.
I didn't know
Just
that. I watched the video just before actually. I'd seen it a few times, but I
it's a
rewatched it.
cool video,
Yeah, it is. It's
actually.
really neat. Well done. Proximity of Death.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I like the way they shot it. It was so, oh my God, it was so cold. It was freezing. We shot it in the middle of winter. I was absolutely
Oh, I thought that was all just like sort of skillful color grading and stuff. Or was
well,
that?
a bit, but not entirely. It
Yeah.
was, oh God, it was so cold. And there's a scene where I think I'm standing in a waterfall or something, and we had to walk up this massive hill of, you know what New Zealand bush tracks are like.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
these huge kind of big clay things like this that we were clambering up, and then I had to stand in the water at the top, and it was just amazing.
Art is
So
suffering.
you know how I look really, really cold?
Yeah.
It's
I
true.
thought that was
True.
just like amazing acting.
No, I'm not that
No.
good.
Oh.
No, I was freezing.
Mm. Well, I suppose that's one way to get around actors not being that good. Just force them to experience the actual conditions or
Yeah.
emotions that you're
And
asking them to
I
portray.
saw Jordan when I was over in the UK last time, which was lovely.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's nice. I haven't, I mean, oh, the last time I saw her was 2009 when she and her then partner came over for a while. She stopped in and hung out. And
I saw her the year after that
yeah.
as well. I went and stayed with her in Germany.
Oh, nice. Yeah, she's,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I'm hopefully, well, COVID and everything, but I'm hoping to get overseas, but ideally this year, worst case, maybe next.
Yeah,
Uh,
we had our trip to Italy destroyed last year.
did you say, did you have some sort of, was that the one, like you, as I was looking
Oh
through your
yeah, I had an
timeline?
artist residency in Naples.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh
I was
no.
supposed to leave the Friday we went into lockdown.
Will it still be available to you if in a
If
year or
they're
two?
still open, if they're
Yeah.
still open, but like Naples isn't a particularly rich city
Mm,
anyway.
yeah.
It's got a lot of mafia control, and
Yeah.
it just depends whether they can afford to keep it open.
Yeah. I was talking to someone who went there like a couple of years ago, and of course, when I think of Naples, I think of that it's that saying about, you can see Napoli and then die. Like basically it was the most beautiful place in the world, and if you've seen that, you've just seen the best the world has to offer. I mean, it's a very old um, quote.
Yeah, 'cause it's
Uh,
quite grungy now.
yeah, it's gotten a bit not so much, is what I heard. But I'm sure it's still full of beautiful things. I mean, I
Oh
went to
God, yeah.
Rome for the first time a few years ago, and I mean, Rome is a lot of rubbish on the streets, and you know, there's all
It's a
kinds of
big
grubby
city.
stuff, but it's like the shit that they have, like you can't get it anywhere else, and it's amazing. It's just awestruck constantly, especially if you're into sort of ancient history and so on.
Yeah, honestly, I was just so gutted. And when we went into lockdown, I was miserable, and I didn't feel like I could complain because everyone else was suffering too.
Mm,
So I didn't even get to have a good whinge about it.
mm. I mean, maybe that's something I should be asking people. How was your lockdown that we had here for some months?
Oh, it was fine,
Yeah,
It was what it was.
yeah, I
I
was
did
fine
lots of,
too, but some people they really found it tough to be isolated like that, or I mean,
probably a bit like me. I don't really like going out,
yeah. Well,
so
I'm
it's
quite
not too.
capable of entertaining myself in front of a computer, and I can
Yeah,
have conversations with people like this. It scratches most of the social itch for me, I suppose, but I suppose some
mm.
people really need to be physically present with other people.
Yeah, no, I was fine. I was just mainly really upset about this trip, which
Mm,
had was meaning a lot to me, and not being able to go. But everyone's had to have stuff like that happen to them.
mm.
So yeah, I did lots of yoga at home.
Well, that's cool. You
Did
still
some
doing
gardening.
yoga?
Like Dan and I were playing. We were playing this turn-based role-playing game.
Mm.
I can't remember the name of. That was really great. So we play that every evening.
What,
It
like
was,
a
it was
video game or like a,
yeah, video
yeah,
game. I'm trying
right.
to remember the name of it. Divinity. It's
Oh,
called.
Divinity. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know some people who play that.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
I decided to make really stupid characters
Ah,
just because I really like that, and I had a giant lizard.
nice. Oh, actually, that's something I. You had some lizards, didn't you? Or you maybe still do.
I did. I don't. They both got old and died.
Oh,
I
they
had
bearded dragons.
yeah. I had Cashew, who was a bearded dragon, and I
Yeah,
had him for 9 years.
yeah.
And I had Steve, who was a leopard gecko, and she unfortunately got liver cancer.
Oh
So I only had
no.
a few years.
Is that what's that sort of in terms of like your their average life expectancy? Is that good ages
Well,
or?
Cashew had a good age.
Hmm.
9 years for a bearded dragon is decent. It's good. And leopard geckos can live for a long time, like sort of 20 years.
Oh wow.
So she died quite young,
Oh, oh,
but it was
shame.
like just one of those things that you just don't expect, you know?
Have you been tempted to get any more?
Sometimes, but you see, I had them at my work, at my business
Hmm.
office in the studio there. Um, and then I had to bring them home, obviously. And we don't have a lot of space, and we've got a really small house.
Right.
So probably not until we have a bigger house.
Hmm.
It's just
Yeah,
not.
I miss not having a cat, but sort of same situation. I mean, it's a small house, but also it's right in the middle of town, and so they couldn't go outside.
Oh, are you still in the same place?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, hopefully managing to sort of move overseas and start traveling and stuff in the next year or so. But
That
we'll
sounds
see.
cool.
Well, yeah, cool if it happens, but a lot of it's sort of
It's
out of our control. With
going to happen, isn't it? Shortly, like
what?
it's going to.
Sorry, say it again.
It's going to have to happen shortly.
Yeah, I mean, and once everyone's
Next year.
end up, it might be a little, there might be a bit more friction on moving around, but I think moving around will become possible 6 months to a year.
Where are you guys going to go?
Well, our kind of plan at the moment is because it doesn't really seem to be possible, given our collective abilities and qualifications and stuff, to emigrate anywhere. And we're not wealthy enough to just buy our way into anything. So what it looks like we will probably plan to do is, we can stay in the UK for 6 months. So go to the
Mm.
UK for 6 months, travel around Europe for 3 months, come back to New Zealand for 3 months, and just kind of continue that cycle. Um, we'll see. We'll see. But I think it would certainly make her a lot happier because
Big stuck here.
well, she
No
just
problem.
she just loves Scotland so much and Europe
Oh,
and
so wide.
yeah,
God, I love that too.
and it's really killing her and all her stuff's over there as well, which is
Oh, did it
uh,
get sort of trapped over there?
yeah, it did. It got trapped over there. It's been there like she's just been paying rent on it. When it's funny because the rent is less than it would cost to put it in storage. She's
Oh,
just paying rent
shit.
on a flat over there with all her stuff in it. Well over a year now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so she came over here just before we all got shut in.
Yes. Yeah. That's so.
Yeah,
The
some of my
plan
sister's
with
friends said that as well. That happened.
yeah. Yeah. I suppose it's a reasonable number of people in that sort of situation. What have I got here? I actually don't have that many things. I don't think left to ask you about, Mary. What have you?
It's been a while, so I don't think I have anything more interesting about me.
Well, I mean, the stuffs you said have been super interesting. What are your sort of plans for the kind of medium, near to medium, long term future? What do you want to do?
Well, I've got a new project in the works um, that is going to be another video work,
Oh, right.
and it's hopefully going to. I'm designing it to be in the round, so the viewer would be in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably edit. I'll make it so that it can be displayed single channel or in different ways, because obviously I can try and pitch it to galleries, but I might have to tone it down a bit. But it's related to a previous work I did. You know how we were talking about going back
Yeah.
to work? There's some work I did during my master's that was to do with the relationship between humans and the planetary bodies.
Oh yes, I looked at some of that
So
work. Yeah.
yeah, and it was more of a sculptural kind of work. And it was to do with how we. It was to do with like the microcosm and the macrocosm, and the way we give, or mythologically, we've given personalities to the planets,
Right.
attributed gods to them and things. And then also how people feel that the planets, influence us,
Right.
basically astrology or whatever,
Mhm.
and how that interrelationship between us and them, even though they're big rocks in the sky, the way we've created entities for them, and in turn decided that they influence us, that kind of weird backs and forwards tension thing going on there.
Right.
So I'm doing a piece to do with how we see the sun and the moon, and the idea of the sun as the father and the moon as the mother,
Hmm.
and how they're moving around us all the time, even when we're not really aware of them, and how sometimes we become aware of them all of a sudden. So I'm going to have two people who walk around, so they actually go around the viewer. Well, this is the plan so far. Go around
Yeah.
the viewer. Every now and then they'll meet, like an eclipse, and maybe they'll
Oh.
touch and look in. So
Yeah.
you get that moment of acknowledging them, like, because we always look up at eclipses.
Hmm.
So we see that happening, and then they move on. And I want the viewer to feel like they're the Earth. They're on the Earth in the middle of these solar lunar bodies moving around. And I'll sort of that's the basics, and I'll plan it out a bit more because there's quite a lot more to it of
I
my
can see.
thinking.
Well, I can see that it's extremely fertile, right? Like
Yeah,
those
there's a lot
ideas.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and more will come out of it as I work on it as well, because there's other things I've been influenced by, but this is my starting point. This is the thing I'm going to plan to make, because this is kind of how I work. I think, okay, I'm going to make this thing. This is the thing I'm going to make. And
Hmm.
as I start making it, I come across other things that I want to do, and I might actually end up with something completely different. But this is the plan at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got a couple of friends who I've roped into it because I always rope my friends in.
Oh, I've noticed. I don't know all of your friends. I know. Obviously, know Shoals. I know Ellie.
Yeah.
I don't know if she remembers me, but like back in the 90s, she did come down a few times, and she was also on
Yeah.
IRC. I remember too. So I think we used to chat a little bit back then. But I recognize some of the
Seen
people in some of
familiar
your works.
faces.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and I also think it's interesting what you just said about. I mean, I often find this with creative projects too, that I'll have my idea and I'll have the thing I want to do, and I'll head towards it, but it'll pretty much always, not end up as that thing.
Right
Like I'll
there.
just, yeah, I'll just, go off on paths and tangents. And I mean, one of my kind of self-criticism things is like, it would actually be nice just to have the vision or the thing I want to do and just to achieve exactly that rather than, I think, well, I understand that, I think probably for you, you'd have the vision and it might not be exactly the same. But I find I often end up somewhere that's really something quite different, and I'd like to be able to stay on target a bit better, maybe. But do you ever find that you go very far off what you started with, or is it more just like a different shading or aspect? Or
Yeah, sometimes I go quite far off.
yeah,
And I think that's really good. Like, I don't think you should feel the need to try and hit a target with your creative output. It's just
well,
a starting point. Just think of it as a starting point.
but
And
I suppose it's partly just being jealous of people like you who have such a strong visual sense that, for example, you could imagine what a wall looked like, and then just make the wall look like that. And because I don't really seem to have that ability in any particular creative realm, like I'll have this murky vision and I'll head towards it and try and accomplish it, but it's almost a combination of distraction and tangents, but probably a basic kind of ineptitude as well. But I think I often end up somewhere that I'm reasonably happy with what I made. It just wasn't what I set out to make. Um,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
yeah.
I don't think you should beat yourself up about that at all.
Well,
Because it's process, isn't it? It's not really. I mean, you want the end goal so that you've got whatever you've made that you can show or do whatever with. But it's
mm,
really about the process. of getting to the thing. That's
Mm.
important. So, and also, like just using your idea as a starting point. And I've done that loads of times where I started off with something,
Mm.
especially with art projects. I'm going, oh, I've got this idea, and I'll start doing it, and then I'll go, oh, sure, I might do this instead, and then I do that, and then I end up with something quite different to what I started with, but it's a lot better.
Well, I suppose you've got like you plan things out and write them down and everything too, so you can actually get a pretty, like you have a record of like
Yeah,
I was going to do this thing, and
yeah.
here is my product, and these are not the same
And
thing.
I go back and look at it as well and go, okay, so I planned to do this and I didn't. Why is that? And I also do like I'll get my I'll take images of all the work that I've done in a given period of time, lay them all out, and kind of look at what's similar about them, which ones work, which ones don't, why I think one might be stronger than the other, what that's got in common with another one, and actually kind of like pick apart what I've created so
Hmm.
that it's trying to make something better going forward.
Yeah, that's oh, that sounds like a good idea. It's quite a
Confronting, but it's good.
um I might steal it
Yeah, do it.
for the future.
Steal it. Do
Yeah.
it. Have you read Have you read How to Steal Like an Artist?
Oh, mm, I know the work, but I don't think so. If I have, I've forgotten it.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Hmm.
It would work for music as well, and it's definitely will make you feel better
Okay.
about getting stuck, stealing other people's work, getting ideas and thinking, oh no, someone has come up with this. It'll kind of wash all of that away. I recommend it.
What was it? Oh, there's a quote I'm trying to remember. It's something like, um, "Good artists copy, great artists steal," or oh, I don't know,
It's something. I know what
something
you mean.
like
It's
that.
something like that.
Yeah.
Because
Um,
it's fine to steal an idea. You don't want to copy someone else's
no,
work,
no.
but you can steal an
But it's
idea.
all about conceal. Actually, I think Einstein said something about, it's all right to steal, but you just got to make sure you conceal your sources so that it's not obvious, basically, that you've stolen something. And
Yeah,
there's enough, like, you were probably taught this when you were studying design, but a designer I was talking to said that in terms of inspiration and copying and that sort of stuff, what he was told is if you can take what you've created and put it next to the thing that you made, and someone looking at both can't tell basically that this thing came from that thing, um, then that's acceptable. Like if you're trying to figure out like how much can I copy or take without, I guess, more or less getting myself in trouble or being accused of being too derivative or something like that.
yeah,
But I mean, within that, there's an awful lot of stealing you can do that you're probably never going to get caught out on. And if people do, they'd be like, well, that's such a great transformation of the thing you stole that it's like, yeah, it's fine. Go hard.
the good thing about art is that you're quite able to openly cite your influences and
Yeah.
say, oh, I've been looking at this artist and this artist and this artist, and people can
Mm,
go, yes, yes, I can
yeah.
see that. And if you're upfront about it, so it's not like the people can. It's not like it's not like a covert thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, oh, let's see. I wonder if anyone's actually asked any questions today. Sometimes there's a handful. Uh, let's have a look at the text. Well, apparently I look like the lead guitarist from the Misfits. I don't think that's a question. It's not a
Brilliant.
question, just an observation. Um, Also, what the fuck is happening, yo? Uh,
What's that?
that's not a question either.
No.
Uh, is Corona true? There's a question I've been asked on the chat. Mary, is Corona true?
True in what sense? I
I
mean,
don't
in a
know.
postmodern sense.
Uh,
Where
yes. Well, is it true in a postmodern sense? Is anything? Is there
it's
truth?
how you define corona, doesn't it?
I suppose
Yes,
so.
corona's true. Come on.
And also someone is being smug about still having their Transformers, and I don't.
Nice,
So
nice.
quality contribution by the live streaming audience there. Um, well, I tell you what, I'm going to ask you there are any things you'd like to say or anything you'd like to talk about that we haven't covered. Um, any thoughts that have occurred to you that I've talked over you too much for you to express, like an absolute bastard?
I've done a lot of talking.
Yeah.
Mm. So,
Well, in that case, I'd just like to thank you so much for doing this.
well, thank you for having me. It's
I
been
have
really
re-
good talking to
it,
you.
it has it's been really enjoyable and really good to catch up. And the thing I mean, because I've spoken to a fair few people, I sort of know with these things. One thing that occurs to me is that usually when you have conversations with people you like, it's I don't know what it is that's different about it. Like often you're not really talking about, I'm not particularly talking about myself. You're not particularly talking about yourself. We may be discussing events or other people or something like that. So I've actually enjoyed getting to talk to people and ask them questions about the things that they care about in a way that maybe I haven't done enough of usually when I talk to them. And, maybe I should, you know? Um,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's made me think maybe I need to research my friends a bit
mm,
and ask them some interesting questions.
yeah, well, and so many things, I've known you for however long, but I've learned so many things that I didn't know about you and that I've been really interested to find out about you. So that's really cool. So I'll let you get back to the rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well,
Um,
thank you very much.
yeah,
That was really good. Hopefully, I'll get to see you in real life shortly.
yeah. Oh, yeah. If you come down, I'll be doing a
Yeah,
little.
I'm still trying to decide whether to come
Yeah.
down. I
Well,
kind of want to, but I kind of, I don't know.
I don't know.
The golf scene is kind of weird to me now.
No
I
pressure,
don't,
but it's always a pleasure to see you. And if you don't come down, I'll come say hi next time I come up.
awesome. I'll
All
be
right.
down in May anyway.
Okay, brilliant. I'll be here. All right. Thank you very much, Mary. Take care of yourself. Thanks so much. Bye. All right. Well, thank you everybody for dropping in. I'm just going to read a little poem to see us out. And this poem I chose because Mary is an artist, and to the degree that I do anything artistic at all, I would think of myself as more of as someone who writes. And there's a poem by Frank O'Hara, who's one of my favorite poets, called Why I Am Not a Painter. I am not a painter. I am a poet. Why? I think I would rather be a painter, but I am not. Well, for instance, Mike Goldberg is starting a painting. I drop in. Sit down and have a drink, he says. I drink, we drink. I look up. You have sardines in it. Yes, it needed something there. Oh, I go and the days go by and I drop in again. The painting is going on and I go and the days go by. I drop in. The painting is finished. Where's sardines? All that's left is just letters. It was too much, Mike says. But me, one day I am thinking of a colour, orange. I write a line about orange. Pretty soon it is a whole page of words, not lines. Then another page, there should be so much more, not of orange, of words, of how terrible orange is and life. Days go by, it is even in prose. I am a real poet. My poem is finished and I haven't mentioned oranges yet. It's 12 poems. I call it oranges. And one day, in a gallery, I see Mike's painting called Sardines. Take care of yourselves. Catch you next time. See you soon.